You are live, Your Worship.
All right, thank you very much, Clerk Call. Great to have everyone here. Welcome back, members of council and members of our staff, members of the public. Council has reconvened after an in-camera session. So we're going to pick up our council meeting for Monday, March the 21st, 2022 at the 5:30 hour. So we're going to get going with a full agenda. And I hope everybody can follow along with the agenda, which of course is available at clearview.ca. All right, council. Again, like I said, this is our first meeting, or our meeting. We do have an agenda. Item number 2 is our approval. But prior to that, we do have our first or our meeting opportunity here in March to read our land acknowledgement, which is a voluntary thing, and I think it's a good thing for me to read it this time. I would like to begin our meeting by recognizing the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of Canada as traditional stewards and caretakers of the land. We acknowledge that Clearview Township is located within the boundaries of Treaty 18, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Titatanati, and the Wendat, and is the home of many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples as part of the intricate nationhood that reaches across Turtle Island. At this time of truth and reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity to work together towards new understandings and new relationships and ask for guidance in all that we do. All right, council, I'm happy to read that at every opportunity. Council, approval of the agenda is item number 2. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby approve the agenda dated March 21, 2022 as presented. And as a note, there was a last minute item added by our clerk today in regards to an announcement of a benefit that the municipality is receiving. And so it's a timely matter. It's been included on our agenda. Is there a mover and a seconder? Broderick and Walker. Well, thank you very much. I will call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Disclosure, pecuniary interest, and general nature thereof. Is there any disclosures at this time? No, thank you. Seeing none, if there is anything that comes up during the meeting, please bring it forward. We'll deal with it appropriately at that time. Council, item number 4 is our public participation period. We did receive 3 submissions through the public participation portal. So let me read the material that's required here, and that is: be advised that comments and views expressed under public participation period are not the views of Township of Clearview Council or the administration. Written comments will be received until noon on March 21, 2022. Please note that any submissions received after 12 noon will not be added to the March 2021 Council meeting. And to submit your comments, the public must use the public participation portal, which is available on this link. This link is available, and all of these submissions are available online for individuals to read. As has been the procedure, I read briefly some notes that I've made about the presentations and give comment or provide answers if necessary. So item number 1 is from Monica Brennan. She's indicated her support for speed reductions, particularly highlighting Fairgrounds Road. And she also highlighted some of the work that RJ Burnside has done. I thank you very much, Ms. Brannigan, for your comments and your submission to public participation, and council has received your information. Item number 2 is Valerie Brady has asked kind of an interesting question in regards to the Christmas decorations. Here we are at the first day of spring, and our Christmas decorations are still appearing in our park. She has asked a question about when they're going to be removed, and also understand there was some vandalism that may have occurred to some of the items in our park property. I did hear back from the Recreation Department in regards to this question that they will be working on it as soon as they have staff availability to do it in conjunction with the Public Works Department. At this time, I would ask if Terry Vachon's available, if he has any comment he'd like to give in regards to that. I know that he and his department worked very hard to put together the Christmas decorations and support those. Terry, do you have any comment about that and what we can expect in regards to the decorations?
No, not really, Your Worship. I don't have much more to add than what you already mentioned.
Okay.
It's just haven't gotten around to it yet. I noticed that the word Christmas decoration was used. It's actually winter decoration.
Well, come on. I'm comfortable saying the word Christmas.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
There's snowflakes and those lights. But yeah, hopefully this week, Your Worship, they should be removed.
All right, thank you very much for that, and I appreciate you and the staff paying attention to that. Thank you, Terry. Perhaps we'll see you later on in the meeting. Item number 4.3 is from Tom Arndt. Tom sent in a comment in regards to the speed reduction bylaw, also indicating his support for it. I actually printed it off because I didn't get a chance to write any comments, so I'm just going to review it again. He talked about being able to walk along the side of the road with kids is no longer safe. And he also cites Highway Traffic Act Section 31 as driving is a privilege. I agree. Certainly enforcement is the key here when it comes to the Highway Traffic Act, of which no members of this council and no members who are on this meeting have any enforcement ability to enforce speeds. That's not our role. Nevertheless, thank you very much, Mr. Arndt, for your comments. We appreciate that. And council has received your comments, and so we appreciate you sending them in. And as always, public participation is an opportunity for the public to share their information with us and ask questions. Certainly, when we return to the council chambers, council, as I hope that comes soon, that we will have the opportunity for members of the public to join us in person and stand at a microphone and perhaps speak directly to us in our chambers. So that is something that I'm working with the staff to try to continue as we move forward here with this this term, which has been most unusual given we're all meeting in Zoom here for the last 2 years. All right, members of council, we're going to move on then. Deputations and presentations. We do have 2 deputations tonight. So we're going to move to our first deputation, which is from the Collingwood General Marine Hospital. I understand Nora Holder is Clerk Call. Is Nora Holder, Mike Lacroix joining us on the meeting today?
You're correct, Your Worship. Both of them are in the meeting right now. Both Nora and Michael can turn on their microphones and their video.
There we are. Welcome, Nora Holder. Nice to see you.
Good evening, Your Worship.
Nice to see you. Is Mike here too? I'm just looking for Mike. Okay. Well, hopefully he's in there. We can hear from him too. Hello, Nora. I understand you have a little presentation you'd like to present to us tonight. And since this is a beautiful spring evening, we'll certainly be interested to hear what you have to say.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Will the presentation be put on display for us?
Yes, Nora, I will put your presentation. I'll share my screen. Michael's just coming back onto the meeting, so I'll just give him a moment.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. And I'll share the presentation. Just one moment.
All right. Welcome, Michael Lacroix. Nice to see you. I'm not sure if he's hearing me, but nevertheless.
Wonderful.
All right, Nora, I'll just push it right over to you. How's that?
Thank you very much, Mayor. So thank you for having us. We really appreciate this opportunity. My name is Nora Holder, and I'm the President and CEO of the Collingwood General Marine Hospital. And I've been in the role for the past 5 years. And previously, I was the Vice President of Patient Experience and Chief Nurse Executive for 8 years. As you may know, I'm retiring, and I would like to acknowledge the positive relations the hospital enjoys with this council. At this time, I'd like to introduce also Michael Lacroix, who, pardon me, I've moved from my, Michael Lacroix, who is currently the Chief Financial Officer and Vice President of Corporate Services. And Michael has been with CGMH for the past 11 years. Michael will be taking on the role of interim CEO upon my retirement, and I know he'll provide stellar leadership. Over the next 10 minutes, we will be sharing information with you about the Collingwood General Marine Hospital's refreshed strategic plan, along with a hospital development update. Next slide, please, and thank you. In 2018, CGMH launched a new strategic plan. At that time, it contained 4 pillars: our people, patient experience, innovation, and partnerships. The hospital developed a new vision, outstanding care for life, which both the hospital and foundation jointly share, along with a new mission, advancing community health through compassionate, innovative, and collaborative care. It was deemed by internal stakeholders at the time that our current care at values resonated well and were well embedded within the hospital. And at the time, we added inclusivity, or the I, and it was approved by the Board of Directors in January 2018. Our values include inclusive, caring, accountable, respectful, excellence, adaptable, and teamwork. At CGMH, we are anchored by our vision and mission and our values, and we are guided by our strategic pillars, which form the basis of our nautical theme, as you can see. We believe that at Collingwood General Marine Hospital, our I Care At values are the beacon that shine from within each staff member, physician, and volunteer. Next slide, please, and thanks. In the first few months of 2020, CGMH commenced a strategic refresh process. It resulted in an overwhelming confirmation of the relevancy of our 2020 strategic plan. The current vision, mission, values, strategic pillars, and strategic directions. The process involved consultation with approximately 700 internal and external stakeholders and a fulsome review of metrics and demographics in regards to our South Georgian Bay area and a bit beyond. As a result of the feedback process, it validated that our 4 strategic pillars and associated directions remained strong, and changes to the goals were recommended. In 2021, in addition to dealing with a worldwide pandemic, the CGMH Board of Directors and senior team remained committed to moving our strategic refresh forward. It took a lot of pivoting, I must say, and adaptability. Our goal today is to provide you with information about our updated goals. Next slide, please. For our patient experience pillar, we commit to the following. CGMH will focus on the ongoing evolving needs of our patients and families, and will provide compassionate, patient and family-centered care of the highest standard to deliver an exceptional experience. Within a best practice environment, key drivers will include the patient and family voice and a culture of innovation and safety. To do this, we will engage in the following goals: improve access to care closer to home, enhance capacity and coordination of services for frail seniors and individuals with complex mental health needs. Next slide, please. For our partnerships pillar, we commit to the following. CGMH will focus on the collaboration with our community and across the health system for patients to receive a seamless, integrated experience with and beyond our hospital. And we will contribute to the development of a care delivery system that builds upon and significantly advances the health of our community. We will continue to work with our many partners so that patients receive care in the most appropriate setting and find it easier to navigate the health system. We align with provincial and community priorities to transform and integrate the healthcare system. To do this, we will engage in the following goals: improve health outcomes of our local population as a member of the South Georgian Bay Ontario Health Team. And we will collaborate with patients, families, caregivers, and community partners to co-design the right care in the most appropriate setting. Next slide, please. For our innovation pillar, we commit to the following. CGMH will focus on innovating continuously and successfully in all that we do. And we will seek innovative solutions to enhance the patient experience, health outcomes for our community, and hospital sustainability, while strengthening existing and building new partnerships. To do this, we will engage in the following goals: seek and share innovative ideas to improve service, environmental sustainability, and value across the healthcare system. Use technology to advance safety, quality of care, and efficiency. And plan a state-of-the-art hospital with our people, our community, and our partners. Next slide, please. For our people pillar, we commit to the following. CGMH deeply values its skilled and dedicated employees, physicians, and volunteers. And we commit to ensuring a healthy, safe, and inclusive workplace which embraces our organizational values. Building upon a culture of engagement in an interprofessional setting, our people will be empowered and encouraged to contribute their input and their expertise to enrich the patient experience today and introduce new ideas tomorrow. We are committed to safety, diversity, open dialogue, continuous learning development, and the education of the next generation of our people. To do this, we will engage in the following goals: retain, develop, and recruit highly skilled people. Continue to build a CGMH team that reflects equity, inclusion, and the diversity of our community. And listen, focus, and act to support the health and the wellness of our people. And this is of great importance in relation to the impact of the pandemic upon our people over the last 2 years. At this time, I'll hand it over to Michael Lacroix to provide a hospital development update. Michael, and next slide, please, and thank you.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Lacroix, the VP Corporate Services and CFO here. Apologize, I had a bit of audio issue to start the meeting, but as most of you know, CGMH received a visit on August 10th, 2021 from the Minister of Health, who announced approval of our Stage 1 planning submission. So in addition to this, the Minister also announced $50 million to complete early planning and design of our hospital development project. And this will result in the modernization and expansion of the Collingwood General Marine Hospital. So with this approval and funding, CGMH began Stage 2 functional programming in the fall of 2021. So during this Phase 2 planning, the hospital will continue to define program services, space requirements, and will be sure to incorporate emerging care standards and building requirements that have been informed by the COVID-19 pandemic, assessing whether the current building can support these standards and how these standards would be applied to new development as part of a hospital expansion. So although the current work underway in Stage 2 planning will ultimately determine the size and the scope of the overall hospital development project, what we can say with certainty is that this planning work will lead to a state-of-the-art facility that will meet healthcare needs for our rapidly growing South Georgian Bay community well into the future. So over the past few months, 18 internal user groups at the hospital have been meeting to review and discuss space needs and requirements of what a future hospital may contain. These user groups consist of hospital employees, physicians, midwives. We do have some volunteer members as part of our hospital's patient, family, and caregiver advisory committee. The hospital is excited to be working on a Stage 2 functional programming in collaboration with these internal and external stakeholders. And we have targeted a Stage 2 submission date to the Ministry's Health Capital Investment Branch within the first quarter of 2023. So that's roughly a year out from now. The hospital continues to be very grateful to the County of Simcoe for its $20 million commitment to the local share component of our hospital development project, and to our municipal partners, such as the Township of Clearview and the Town of Collingwood, for their commitment to the Hospital Foundation's capital development campaign. We'd also like to thank Mayor Measures, who sits on our hospital development committee as a representative of Simcoe County. Next slide, please. So to keep everyone up to date on the status of CGMH's hospital development project, the hospital, in partnership with the Hospital Foundation, launched a new website at yourfuturehospital.com. So this website will be the home for all official project announcements, community forum information sessions, and more. The primary goal of the website is to keep our community up to date on our hospital development project, and to also help clarify the Ministry hospital capital planning process, including what happens during Stage 2 planning that we're currently in, as well as what's involved in the remaining 3 stages. We also answer some of the more commonly asked questions we get from the community through a Q&A section on the website, and there's also a forum for community members to submit their questions related to hospital development. So given the scope of our project and the extended timelines required to complete the planning and design process, project updates will not occur with great frequency on the website, at least for the first part of this year and probably into the fall. But the best way that our community can engage with the website and stay up to date on our project is to sign up for the hospital development newsletter. So at this time, I'd like to hand things back to Nora, who can wrap up our presentation.
Thank you, Michael. If we could move to the next slide, please. First of all, I do want to comment that the generous contributions by Clearview and the Town of Collingwood were provided on the accord of that council, not at the request of the hospital. I just wanted to make that quite clear. I also want to recognize and thank Councillor Patterson, who was board chair during my first years as CEO. Thank you very much, Councillor. Your support and the many years that you were on our board are greatly appreciated. So on behalf of Michael Lacroix and myself, I would like to thank you for the opportunity today to present to you. And it's been a pleasure working with you all during my time, my 12.5 tenure here at CGMH.
Thank you very much, Nora, and thank you again for all of your service to our great community. And you have led a strong team there during the 12 years, but notably during the last 2 years, as this pandemic continues to march on. We continue to offer excellent defense by the work of healthcare workers, and I know that you and your team are leading the charge. So we appreciate you very much, and we appreciate all of who work in healthcare. So thank you, Nora, for that presentation. Michael, congratulations and welcome to stepping in for the interim role. Congratulations on that. It's great to have that. Members of council, do you have any questions, comments, or accolades you want to throw at our amazing staff at the CGMH? I'm looking for members of council. Councillor Patterson, please. You're muted there, sir. Sorry, Tom. Yeah.
I just wanted to direct some comments to Nora. I didn't realize my video was off. I just wanted to record my smile. Just brought some memories back with working with Michael and Nora on the 2018 version. So it was an excellent experience, and I'm particularly proud of the fact that our township is continuing their support and your efforts on the development side. So should I say good luck, good travels in your retirement? And Mike, you know all about it, so you're just the right man to pick it up for now. So good luck to both of you. Thank you for your good work.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patterson. Well said. Any other members of council with any questions of the presentation or to our staff? All right. I will just ask Michael, just to clarify again, the website regarding the redevelopment, it will be updated, correct, Mike, with any new information or processes as we move through the whole gamut. Could you just review some of that information again?
Absolutely. So as we're able to cement information and share, we're very much wanting to do that to keep our community up to date. But we just know that the next number of months, we're still in the user group engagement phase. We're still doing a lot of that preliminary planning. But we hope to have some things sort of pre-approved in terms of where we are on part A of the submission, which is functional programming, being able to share with certainty what programs, what services, how many beds we're talking about. So as we're able to cement some of those key pieces, we absolutely want to be sharing that with our community, and that website, which is yourfuturehospital.com, is the place to find that information.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Michael. And again, Nora, have an excellent retirement. I can't imagine you'll be sitting around just, playing cards. I'm sure you'll be busy doing something. So good for you. And I wish you all the best and congratulations. And thank you for your service to our great community.
Thank you very much. Thanks for this opportunity this evening.
Excellent. Always a pleasure. Please come back. Great to see you again.
Okay.
If there's nothing further, thank you. If there's nothing further from our council, I'll release our members from the CGMH and wish them a good day. All the best. All right, Madam Clerk, moving on to item 5.2, I understand Mr. Ziegel would like to make a presentation to us in regards to opposition to the speed reduction. Could you bring Mr. Ziegel into the meeting? Now you're muted, actually, Sarah, or Sarah. Sasha?
You can see Mr. Ziegel's turned on his camera.
There he is. Hello, Gordon. There he is. Yeah.
Hi, Doug.
All right.
Good evening, Councillor.
Good evening, Gord. Yeah, so you want to make a presentation to us. I just want to acknowledge while you're here, right here in front of me, that we did receive your public participation comments, and council did have opportunity to review them and read them all. And I'd like to note that while there was some opposition or some question about whether I read all of the information aloud to everyone, that's not been my procedure. To do that, I usually summarize some of the comments, and I hope that you understand and appreciate that's what I do for public participation period, and I hope that that supports the messaging that you've been wanting to bring forward.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so then I've got that off, cleared up. Board, I'll pass it over to you. I know you have a presentation, so I'll let you go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. My name is Gord Ziegel. I'm a resident of Clearview Township and a business owner located in Creemore. I'm speaking to you this evening on behalf of our group of small businesses with the hope that council will hear our words, listen to the facts, and act accordingly with that in mind. Our research, advice, and the request to act on that advice are all based on accurate data and sound evidence. I have had a discussion in regards to my deposition this evening with Mayor Measures. Doug has requested that this be a question and answer opportunity. So at this time, I'd like to start my presentation by reading the definition of the 85th percentile. The 85th percentile is used by almost every jurisdiction in North America when considering traffic speed reductions. I would then like to read a speed report prepared by the Simcoe County Transportation and Engineering Department. After that, I would like to pose questions and ask all council members to address those questions. Some councillors have specific knowledge of the topics, and I welcome their response. I, in return, am also happy to answer any questions that you may have. As you know, I have also received an email from Councillor Doug McKechnie in which he asks several questions and requests my input in return. I have answered all of those questions in a separate email, and I sent it to council today, and I will be happy to discuss the response that I have written. The 85th percentile is the speed at or below which 85% of the motorists drive on a given road unaffected by slower traffic or poor weather. This speed indicates the speed that most motorists on the road consider safe and reasonable under ideal conditions. Simcoe County Transportation and Engineering Speed Limit Report. If you lower the speed limit, people don't automatically drive slower. Just as people don't automatically drive faster when the speed limit is raised. One primary reason for setting speed limits lower than the speed considered safe and reasonable by the majority of motorists is based on the belief that lower speed limits reduces speeds and collisions. Also, it has been frequently suggested that most motorists drive 10 to 20 kilometers over the posted speed limits, so lower limits should be established for this condition. Studies have indicated that lowering posted speed limits by as much as 30 kilometers per hour or raising speed limits as much as 20 kilometers per hour had little effect on motorists' speed. The majority of motorists did not drive 10 kilometers per hour over the posted speed limits when the limit was raised, nor did they reduce their speed by 10 kilometers per hour when speed limits are lowered. Arbitrary, unrealistic, and non-uniform limits have created a socially acceptable disregard for speed limits. Unrealistic limits increase collision risks for persons who attempt to comply with the speed limit by driving faster or slower than the majority of road users. Unreasonably low limits significantly decrease driver compliance, and give road users, such as people not familiar with the roadway, as well as pedestrians and cyclists, a false indication of actual traffic speeds. What is actually more dangerous is when motorists are driving at varying speeds. With speed limits set at the 85th percentile speed, that is the speed differential or range of travel speeds, it is reduced so that more vehicles are traveling at or near the same speed, with fewer vehicles traveling at extremely high or low speeds. Statistics show that roadways with speed limits set at the 85th percentile speed have fewer collisions than roads where the posted speed limit is above or below what the majority naturally travels. The Huronia West Police Force cannot be in all places at all times. They rely on realistic speed laws to control the unreasonable speeder whose driving behavior is clearly out of line from the majority of the traffic flow. A reasonable speed limit offers an effective enforcement tool to the police by clearly separating the occasional violator from the reasonable majority. At this time, in your possession, I emailed to all council today a legal opinion from a prominent municipal lawyer in the province of Ontario, who happens to be the municipal lawyer for the town of Collingwood. How fitting, given that all the roads in question border Collingwood on the north. Basically, this letter, which was asked for by myself, I included staff reports, which council has received. I sent the traffic assessment study, the public works staff from RJ Burnside and Associates Limited report, and other materials and information that are relevant to this matter. Background. In enacting the policy in 2019, council prescribed for itself the process that the township will follow when considering requests for traffic calming measures such as speed reductions. The policy is very detailed and prescriptive. It establishes the ground rules that council has determined that it will abide by when making decisions that affect such matters. The policy includes the following provisions and requirements. The policy applies to all sites and traffic calming proposals other than arterial roads, which is contained in section 1.1. Community involvement and support is deemed to be paramount, and a description of the study will be issued in a notice along with a survey delivered to residents affected by the implementation of the proposed traffic calming measures. That's contained in section 4.2. Where the statistical threshold for traffic calming measures is met, proponents must submit a petition showing at least 51% of support from properties abutting the affected road. Failure to meet the 51% support level will result in termination of the investigation at that stage. If the above threshold is met, surveys prepared by staff will be delivered by mail to affected residents containing prescribed information, and the process may not continue unless a minimum of 25% of total surveys delivered are returned to the township, and 60% of the returned surveys support the support the proposed implementation measures. That is contained in section 5.4. If the survey threshold set out above is not met, the process will cease, and a notification of failure to meet the neighborhood support levels will be sent to the residents on the mailing list. That's contained in section 5.4. Staff will provide the proposed traffic calming measure to relevant agencies such as fire emergency services, ambulance services, police services, and transit services for comment. And the traffic calming proposal will be discontinued if all agency concerns cannot be remedied. It is our understanding that most of the roads for which the speed reductions are proposed are not arterial roads. So this policy applies to them. It is our further understanding that none of the requirements of this policy, as set out above, have been followed by the township in this instance. Commentary. From a statutory perspective, there are no provision by the Municipal Act 2001 or other applicable legislation that set out how traffic calming measures must be implemented. However, once council made the policy decision to establish the policy to set out how affected members of the public and emergency services would be involved in the process, it created a reasonable expectation among members of the public that council would follow the provisions set out in that policy. Stated more simply, it is reasonable for a member of the public to assume that council will follow its own rules that it has established for itself. While it is beyond the limited scope of this retainer to comment fully on the prospects of legal success if the proposed speed reduction bylaw was challenged in court, the fact that council did not follow its own rules would be a factor in such a consideration. A judge of the Superior Court of Justice or a 3-judge panel of Superior Court justices sitting as the divisional court on a judicial review would look to all factors that led to a municipal decision, including whether or not the township had adhered to its own adopted policies. Councils must act in good faith in an open and transparent manner. The township's failure to abide by the policy could be taken as an indication that a proper process was not followed. While courts are reluctant to substitute their judgment for those of elected representatives, they are more likely to intervene when a proper process has not been followed, since that brings the integrity of the outcome into doubt. If I was advising a municipality, I would strongly recommend that it comply with its own rules in order to be able to respond to such a challenge. At a minimum, if council is not going to follow its own rules as set out in the policy, then it should formally amend them in advance. The method and timing by which the council decided to change its own rules would be another factor in a court's consideration. In summary, based on the information provided to us, it is our opinion that Township Council has not have followed the rules it established for itself in its traffic calming policy. Not doing so renders any decisions that are made pursuant to that flawed process more vulnerable to a legal challenge. While the outcome of such a challenge can never be predicted with certainty, it is clear that the township's failure to adhere to its own rules would form part of the judicial consideration. It is not too late for the township to correct these deficiencies by carrying out the process set out in the policy prior to making a decision on a bylaw to implement proposed speed reductions. I trust that this is helpful, but please let me know if you require any further comment. Stephen J. O'Melia, Miller Thompson LLP. I need to take a drink. Sorry.
No problem, Gord. We're listening. Take a minute, take a drink.
So this is my question session. The Clearview traffic calming policy was initiated and implemented using proper protocols in response to speeding complaints on Fairgrounds Road. It is mentioned in the proposed scope and methodology for the traffic assessment study 3 times. It is acknowledged by staff in their report to council and used extensively in Howard Senton's TAS study submitted to council. It was pointed out in my first deposition several months ago to council and in the subsequent meeting with the mayor. With all of these facts presented to council, why was it not acknowledged as policy and its procedures followed? Ladies and gentlemen, it would have worked in this situation. The traffic assessment study submitted by Burnsides in May of 2021 did not include any significant speed recommendations in it. In fact, Howard Senton stated, lowering the posted speed limit is not the solution. It gives more enforceability, but the whole toolbox needs to be looked at. He reported most of the roads surveyed in the traffic assessment study currently have posted speeds that are acceptable based on the criteria considered, with the following exceptions. Concession 10 between County Road 91 and 3334 if the road remains a graveled surface. Concession 10 between 3334 Side Road and Poplar Side Road. Councillor McKechnie was clearly upset and in his words stated, "I was livid when I read this report. There was smoke coming out of my ears." However, he later voted in favor of the report when he was given assurances that special projects would come back to council for approval and budget deliberations. Why in October of 2021 were significant changes made to the traffic assessment study recommendations when none of the data had changed? The same alignment constraints, horizontal and vertical curves existed when the first TAS recommendations were made, and intermodal travel was not covered in the study, but was recommended by Burnsides to be studied. Why was concession 6 north recommended to be reduced to 60 kilometers per hour when the response to our survey showed that 14 of the 18 residents on that stretch of the road wanted left at 80 kilometers per hour? Councillor McKechnie stated on March 7th, 2022, that he thought concession 6 north was going to be reduced to 60 kilometers per hour, which would subsequently allow for the use by ATVs. Can council please elaborate on this statement? Can you explain why council continues to accept that the data supplied by Ontario Traffic Inc. and Burnsides is considered accurate? The lockdown wasn't in effect during the first data measurements. Businesses were shuttered. People were staying at home. People weren't on the roads. A year later, the municipality was open for business. In fact, the date was June 4th. When the second data measurements were taken, people were back to work. The roads were busy. Clearly, the average daily traffic, which is ADT in the formula, would be inflated when compared to the first data study. The data would not produce an accurate and fair assessment when considering speed reductions. It's a fact that speed reductions that are proposed will result in added time and fuel costs to commuters and businesses in Clearview Township. When all the costs are taken into consideration for the entire township, I estimate it could exceed $1 million. How does council justify these costs to our taxpayers and small businesses, given the circumstances of the last 2.5 years, and that the studies fail to prove that our roads are not safe? It has been stated that council's decision to lower speed limits is in large part, and I quote, a response to an overwhelming call to actions, by residents to make our roads safer. On Friday, March 18th, in the Creemore Echo, Councillor Patterson said he received a survey with results from 50 residents that support lowering speeds. That was the 54% rate, as well as traffic calming measures. Does council realize that this is a resident on Fairgrounds Road that used a survey monkey to produce the results? Respondents could send as many surveys as they wanted to and do it anonymously if they chose to. That's what a survey monkey is. Is this another example of accurate data? It has also been stated that the decisions on speed limits need to be rooted in data and not politics. I have shown that the TAS, Traffic Assessment Study data, is not accurate. It has also been stated that staff have to make recommendation based on the statutes that govern the maintenance of our roads. The statutes that govern the maintenance of our roads is contained in Ontario 239-02 minimum maintenance standards for municipal highways. Municipal Act 2001, last amended May 3rd, 2018. Our roads currently meet those standards. It has been said that making a road safety decision raises an issue of liability for the municipality. In regards to the issue of liability for the municipality, we are no more or less liable if we raise the speed limits, lower the speed limits, or leave them the same. Does council have any information from our insurance company to support the claim to council and the public that we will be more liable if we do not reduce the speeds? Emergency response times will take 25% longer if the speeds are reduced to 60 kilometers per hour. Our insurance rating may be downgraded, and the costs to insure our township may go up as a result of the speed reductions and emergency response times. Has there been any consultation or consideration given to our emergency service departments that allows them input on your decisions to reduce speed limits? Has there been any consideration given to the safety of the taxpayers of Clearview Township in the event of a house fire, an accident at work, a heart attack, Are we more liable in this situation than if we don't reduce speed limits? Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and councillors, clearly the process to review and potentially reduce the speed limits has not been an open and transparent undertaking. The majority interests of the working people, businesses, and farmers have not been properly considered. In my opinion, there has been political lobbying and fear-mongering within our council that has affected the decision-making process as it relates to the traffic study. I am asking council to reject the proposed bylaws and get back to the business of running our township in an open, honest, and transparent manner. Please respect the wishes of the majority of Clearview Township's taxpayers and stop the speed reductions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gord. I'll let you go get a drink of water because you've been delivering a very passionate speech, and those are good comments that you've raised. I would ask that members of council may have some questions, but I would just give you one comment, Gord, and that is councillors are, you were not present, Gord, and I was not even quoted when I said this in the local newspaper at our inauguration. At our inauguration, I made the statement, and I still stand by it, that elected officials are citizens doing citizens' work. That's what we're trying to do here. And it's complicated. And frankly, there's a lot of procedural gymnastics that go on to get to motions at a council table to move the municipality forward. So I respect all members of our council for all of their input on this. And I respect you for sure as a citizen, most certainly, Gord, for bringing forward to my attention as the mayor, the failures of our procedure to follow the procedure in the traffic calming bylaw. And that was the information that was shared with me, along with Mr. Van Saveren was with you that night, Dan Perot and our CAO, and there were many other members of the public who were in a meeting that we were asked to come to. Honestly, not knowing all the details of what you want to talk about, but I really appreciated that message, and I received that very clearly that night. And I think this council's been moving in the best direction we can forward. The other statement I'll share with you, Gordon, and it's something I've shared with with the public and with the members of this council, and that is that we are dealing with motions that were presented to us by members of council, properly presented, moved and seconded back in July. The motions were then duly deferred subsequent to the traffic assessment study work being done. So original motions that came to us before we even had a traffic assessment study were deferred. That got us to the meeting on the 18th, where one, we received all the information about the traffic assessment study. And then following that, some of those motions that were deferred were then returned to the council table. And council had the opportunity to receive that in workshop and talk about those motions. And we made some recommendations, particularly that they would be subject to budget approval, which is part of your presentation, Gord, when you're talking about the budget and how much we spend on these road features. We moved, the next time we spoke about this, we moved to a discussion at a budget workshop session where we reviewed the recommendations that have been presented. A motion to deny them was presented at the workshop session, and that motion carried. And so the subsequent the subsequent budget that was then presented to this council and voted on did not include any monies to put aside for the traffic signage work that was part of those original motions. And then at the last meeting, which was the 7th, those recommendations came from our staff as part of their recommendations. And you certainly know how that played out because you commented to us at that meeting about it. And so that's where we are today. So I just wanted to review that with you. Do you have any questions about my review, Gord?
No, I would make one comment, Doug. To the taxpayer of Clearview Township, by finding the funds to support things that weren't in the budget, you spend an extra potentially $100,000. $100,000 to the taxpayer of Clearview.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's in the budget or out of the budget. It's $100,000.
Absolutely.
And that's how we look at it.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate those comments, Gord. And I just wanted to make sure you understood that we both agreed that that's the procedure where we got to where we are. Okay.
No, understand. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir, for that. All right. Thank you for your presentation. Now I see the Deputy Mayor has been keenly showing his card. He wants to speak, so I'll turn the floor to him. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you so much, Your Worship. And my question actually is to our CAO and to our clerk. And my question is, there's been a legal statement or comment made here, and should we and can we defer this to get a legal opinion from our legal team, whether in fact we did or did not, fail to follow our own procedures? And if we did fail to follow our own procedures, does that make the existing, well, they're not bylaws yet, but the existing motions null and void because we didn't follow? So I think we need to get a legal opinion on that. And so I'm asking the clerk and our CAO to give us an opinion on that before we get into any other discussions.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll go to the CAO first, and I think the clerk is here somewhere. And also, Mr. Perot did advise me he would like to speak as well. So let's answer this question, and then we'll go to Mr. Perot. Mr. Ferguson, go ahead.
It's a good question, Your Worship, and I read the opinion letter that Mr. Ziegel had received, and I would suggest that the lawyer was very careful in how he wrote it, and that he's not saying whether it would win a case of turning over what council has decided or not. He was very careful in making that clear. With that said, we do have a traffic calming policy. I wasn't here when the traffic calming policy was created, but my understanding it was meant to be for the smaller neighborhoods is really what it was designed for, is how it was passed off. And I think that's why it wasn't followed as it relates to some of the other roads that are not considered connecting roads or roads that are I forget the term you used, Gord, in what you were saying. The roads were, if they weren't considered this type of road, they would fall under the policy. Okay, arterial. I'm not sure if the traffic calming policy was meant to go that far, but irregardless, we can't rely on an outside legal opinion to guide us, and I think Gord understands that, but he's read it so that we're aware of it. The only alternative that we would have is to get a second legal opinion on our side to determine whether or not council is at risk of proceeding with it, which is a previous decision when a policy was in place that should have been applied, I think is what's being suggested. So we would have to get a second legal opinion on that. It's really not up to me to say whether or not a legal opinion is correct or not. I did notice that the lawyer that wrote the opinion was cautious on not saying what the outcome would be, and I think that was a wise move. It is a complicated area when you're dealing with the discretionary decision of council and policies. I'm not sure how the courts end up in that. It's not always an easy finding. But with that said, I think the message that you're telling council is being heard, and I think that's important. I think a lot of information has gone out, and before council has made a final decision, they've allowed people to come in and provide their input, even including this evening, which I think is very important when you're dealing with decisions that affect taxpayers and commuting residents in the township. So again, this matter really is going to fall on council's lap as a decision. If we defer to get a legal opinion, the legal opinion may come back and say you have the authority to proceed, and then you'll be dealing with it at your next meeting. And the legal opinion comes back and says, well, you should follow the policy. Well, then you're going to be going back and reviewing parts of your policy and adhering to them, I guess, as you move forward. That's all I can say about that. It's a $64,000 question, really, as it relates to if you want to defer this for a legal opinion or not.
Thank you, John. Actually, can I go to the clerk first, Gord? Madam Clerk, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Your Worship. For you to the rest of council. So there are 2 motions to reconsider on tonight's agenda. If at that time, if those motions pass to the affirmative and the original motion is brought back to council, at that point, a council member can make a motion to refer back to staff for any number of reasons, and that could be to get a legal opinion. I know that there is a 3rd bylaw on tonight's agenda that hasn't been the subject of a motion to reconsideration. If we come to that bylaw, there's also the option for council to refer that bylaw back to staff for more information in regards to a legal opinion.
All right, that's good advice. Tom, is this on the same topic or do we go to Dan? Tom?
Just a quick one, just for council's information, and the clerk knows this, as well as I think the CAO, that in discussions about liability, this very specific point, I have prepared, and the clerk does have my motion that I think is appropriate, excuse me, that is appropriate when the reconsideration motions come up, that we do refer the matter to staff to understand what legal.
Right.
Well, rather than read my motion, what I'm saying is, I think properly, having heard Gord's piece, we're on the same page on this one. I think there is a question of what response the council has to take, regardless of which way we side on the reconsideration motion. I have one prepared. I'm prepared to move it when we get into that portion of the meeting. So just to let people know.
All right, thank you.
I think it's inappropriate now to do it during a presentation.
That's why I'm attempting to interrupt you, because I agree with you. It's not appropriate right now, but thank you. Gord, did you want to respond to some of that, and then we'll go to Dan in regards
Yes,
to getting us I mean, your legal opinion, as you heard from our CAO, while we appreciate hearing it, is not something that council can rely upon, because council has to get our own legal opinion if they so decide.
So what upsets me is I presented this 6 months ago.
Yeah.
As a private citizen, as a concern. Why wasn't it addressed then? You could have asked your counsel at that time if Mr. Ziegel's opinion is valid.
Right.
Secondly, I'm interested in hearing Dan's comments, because I have shown in writing that staff commented on the validity of the CTCP.
Yeah.
And I have shown where Dan Senton used it in several times during his presentation and regarding the TAS. So if staff and if the Burnsides is using our policy to enact speed reductions, why does council not suggest or agree that it is a valid policy? We didn't have to get to this point. I didn't have to spend thousands of dollars to get a lawyer's opinion. That's
appreciate that. Yeah, for sure. Gord, just to be clear, I know that you and I believe Mr. Van Staveren attended a council meeting and doing a similar deputation to this. Yes. I was unable to be at that meeting. As you know, I was away at a Remembrance Day event and I was unable to attend that meeting, but I know I did review it and I saw your presentations then as well. So I appreciate you bringing this forward yet again. Let's go to Dan Perot. Mr. Perot, you wanted to jump in with a comment?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to point out that that while Mr. Ziegel's comments and the opinion from the lawyer are correct, just want to point out for council's information, and this may answer Deputy Mayor Burton's question, that speed reduction, while it is mentioned in the traffic assessment study, speed reduction is not a measure outlined in the traffic calming policy of 2019. The traffic calming policy mentions speed tables, line painting, other factors, other measures to be implemented. Enforcement's a big one. So that when Mr. Senton put together his report, I know he refers to traffic calming or speed reduction as a measure, it is also other things that come along with it. And I'd have to review the report in detail, but there are sections where there's guardrails, more signage, more line painting, other things that come along. Enforcement, again, another big point of it. So while you know, the results, I'll say, of a speed reduction, in essence, create a traffic calming way or a measure along with other measures. It is not specifically outlined in the traffic calming policy of 2019. So I hope that,
thank you very much.
I hope that just clarifies that policy plus what was written in the traffic assessment study.
Okay. Gord, go to you first.
Thanks, Dan. Would you acknowledge, though, Dan, that the 10 km/h threshold that was contained in our CTCP was used when most municipalities in Ontario use 15 km/h threshold when they determine the data to suggest speed reductions?
Mr. Perot?
I certainly do. Again, through your worship. And that was the results of the original traffic assessment study, the draft of June 2021, I think. And at that presentation, I think between then and we had another council meeting in between where we discussed the 10th concession. The 10th concession that's starting to has been under construction since last year, where our engineers had designed that road, which was required. And because of the constraints of that design, i.e. not having enough road allowance, you know, constructing the road within the road allowance as it sits today, the design was set that the engineer made recommendation to the municipality that based on that design, that speed cannot be 80 anymore, and that it be 60 with a 10 kilometer buffer. So knowing that information, and so that was, you know, after the original traffic assessment study, it was referred back to staff. But knowing the information that we know about the 10th concession, Henry and his team went back and reviewed specific roads based on council's request. And based on that request, we came back with the memo, the letter of September of 2021. So while I agree that speed reduction should not be considered on roads where the 85th percentile is not met, other factors should be taken into account when looking at those roads for speed reduction. And that's what was done following council's input and ask after the June meeting.
Okay, Gord. Thank you, Dan. Gord, I'll let you respond because you were asking about that. So Gord, go ahead, and then I can go to Tom. So
Dan, based on those comments, would you agree that if the 15 km/h threshold had been used in Burnside's traffic assessment study, the possibility exists that the data would not have shown that reduced speeds was necessary? And further, I'd like you to comment on the accuracy of the data from the two studies undertaken by Ontario Traffic Inc., given that one was taken in lockdown of COVID, and the second one was taken when the province was opened, that being June 4th, and that subsequent data was compared. In your opinion, would that not suggest that the average daily traffic would be significantly more the second time that the data was taken compared to the first time? Thank you.
Dan, are you comfortable with that question?
Thank you, Worship. Certainly, the timing wasn't great to get a true and accurate pre-COVID number, I guess I'll call it. But it's the information that we have. So the information I would say is accurate. Is it in pre-COVID numbers? Probably not. Even the data that was collected in 2021 probably is not. But we will continue as a program to continue to get that information as we move forward. That's built into our operations budget, and it not only will form part of the ongoing traffic assessment, but also works in other various things for our capital work programs and other things. So it's a handy thing to have, and we just haven't had that for a few years. So that's going to be a staple now in our program.
Thank you, Dan. Tom, and I want to remind all members of council, we're still in presentation section. So if you have any questions of the presentation, let me know by flashing up your card. Go ahead, Tom.
I actually do have a couple of questions, but I think I just want to put a little finer point on a discussion that Dan just introduced here to understand the evolution of the work that was started here. It did start with a fairly simple request to look at speeds as well as other things. And, council will remember that sometime in May of 2020, after approving the comprehensive traffic study in January, that there was some confusion about whether or not speed would play a part in collection. So that was added. So I think there was a lot of thought that currently what we were looking at was speed. When we got the report from Burnside, which is dated April 23rd, we saw it on June 14th. It had recommendations just as Gord recommended. However, that was a workshop draft, and also Gord mentioned some of the reactions from council. One wasn't particularly happy with it because they were looking for immediate changes to the reduction of speed. The fact is, what was interesting about what Henry Senton did was basically said, I've done enough study with regards to speed. There is more work required. The words are all in there. And in the highlighted areas where there could be more work done in terms of investigating the design compliance of the road, and asked if there were any roads that he wanted in particular. And that's how the council got involved. They were asked to fill out a sheet, which 6 did, and some of the roads were named. The interesting thing that happened is that Henry Senton discovered that in the same way that we had to lower the design speed on concession 10, we would have to consider lowering it on, in this case, Riverside Drive, concession 6 and Fairgrounds Road in parts, in sections. And so there was a shift from just the focus on speed, where your 85th percentile is a rule of thumb, to the actual design criteria that are used. And you'll see the phrases, the words used in there, design restrictions. And that is what is being attempted to resolve by speed reduction in the near term on Fairgrounds Road and on Riverside in a portion of 6. What that means is that we would like to rebuild portions of the road as we are rebuilding concession 10. We don't have the funds to do that. So what are the remedial actions? And what Dan is suggesting in his report, which is verified by the engineer's work, is that in fact, there are additional risks now imposed to the multimodal use of the road. And the most efficient way, and actually the least expensive way, is to make a reasonable compromise with mobility, movement of traffic, is to lower the speed. And I understand all the concerns from the public about doing that you've outlined that clearly, but I think you need to understand the design concepts that are behind the decision that staff recommended. I have questions later, I'll do it later if we have time, with regards to some of your comments. I just wanted to make sure that you understand, we don't lose that. That was the value of the study, and that is going to form the basis of our decision-making going forward.
Tom, if I have to interrupt you, you're definitely bringing forward recommendations and ideas that serve in a debate rather than questions to the presentation. So I appreciate that, and I know you're very passionate about this, so I'm asked that you relieve some time to other members of council who may want to ask questions in response to the actual presentation. So thank you, Tom. Gord, do you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Tom. That's an interesting segue into road design when we're talking about speeds. However, you mentioned intermodal travel. If you're so passionate about proper data, why did you not study and support a study on intermodal travel?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking.
Are you asking Dan or what?
No, I'm addressing your comments. Why, if you suggest that the road speeds change because of the design, do you mention intermodal travel? And if intermodal travel is a factor, why did you not push to have it studied by Burnsides and included in their findings?
It's an excellent point, and it's exactly why we did. If I may, Mayor, answer. It's an excellent point. It's exactly the frustration that we all had as councillors receiving many requests for traffic to find some way that we could provide consistent responses to them, and that they were actually based in design facts and public engagement as well. I don't think anyone council will admit that wouldn't want to admit that we can always do public engagement no better. But that's a point that we can also have discussion on. But in terms of multimodal, Dan has already laid that out in one of his recommendations that were approved, that we first brought out on July 27th, and then reconfirmed on October the 5th, that there is more study to do. We spent just enough money to look at 48 sections and to get a taste of what we could do as a group to better manage, remember, the comprehensive traffic management study. So of course we wanted to look at the migration of traffic when we made certain decisions on a road, because it's always been the contention, I've always said it, and I think that's behind the multimodal, is that we should be looking at these as a network, not discrete pieces of road, or else we are going to have inconsistencies of the effect of those things. So a short answer is we are moving that way. Dan has a vision of going forward. We actually approved the 23 program to do more studies. And I'll give you one fear. This is one of the things I worry about when we get too polarized on this issue. If we start undermining some of the decisions that we make now, okay, to actually find a framework to work better on these decisions, then I'm afraid we're gonna have more political decisions by council than solid design decisions, traffic design from our staff that council and the public can look at. So yes, it's easy to point out all the difficulties and some of the inconsistencies and some of the areas that are hard to understand, but it's a lot harder to find the right solutions to keep our roads safe. And what does that mean? Anyway, I'll stop there. You're right, I am passionate, so are you.
Yeah, we all are. Okay, so again, I'd ask members of council if they have anything further. I see Gord, if you want to do some wrap up here, Gord, and because I've given you time in our council meeting to give this presentation, which I appreciate you asking the clerk to participate. So we're going to continue to give you the ability to speak the comments that you wish to bring forward.
I am here tonight, council, in support of small business in Clearview Township. We have stated that the lowering speed limits to 60 kilometers an hour is going to affect our costs. Is it not important to study intermodal travel and find out why this is affecting our township? Is it not important to do that, to determine if the economic benefit of the intermodal travelers supersedes the benefit of your working community? So to not study that, and yet all your bylaws mention intermodal travel. How can you do that to the working class people in this Township. Thank you.
Gord, thank you very much. For the last time, is anybody else? All right, seeing none. Gord, I want to thank you on behalf of council for participating. I also want to thank you for acknowledging that we, have been struggling with this very issue for a long time. And we also know that none of these things are perfect. And so we're doing the best we can. And I think that, tonight's items on our agenda will be well discussed and may bring further resolution to this very difficult problem. If I may, Gord, at the last meeting, during our lengthy debate, a comment was made about a sign should just say, slow the hell down. And I really mean that. I think people across our whole township, whether they be visitors, intermodal, small business owners, large business owners, retirees, slow down. That's all I can ask. That's all we can ask. We want everybody to take it easy, be more alert when you're driving, stop using your cell phones. You hear it from the police officers all the time. So that's all we're trying to do. And I'm hopeful that the message will get out through people like yourselves who are engaged with this and appreciate, what it means to serve in our community. And I hope that that we can have a better and a safe community and continue to have a safe community. Because as I said to you, Gord, when I met you, I personally believe all of our roads are safe. So thank you, Gord, for joining us here tonight. And I appreciate you with your input.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Council, we're going to move on in our agenda. If I can find my agenda, because I have paper all over my desk here. So I just want to make sure I find where we are. Okay, we're at item number 6, which is a public meeting, and there are no public meetings tonight. Is that right? There are no public meetings tonight. And then we're at item number 7, which is approval of the meeting minutes. Recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township hereby approve the minutes of March the 7th, 2022, council meeting as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder on the minutes, please? That'd be Councillor Broderick and Deputy Mayor Burton. Is there any questions? Seeing none, to vote on the minutes. All those in favor? And the minutes carry. Thank you very much. From business arising from the minutes, as it's been discussed already, we have 2 items, 8.1 and 8.2. The clerk is going to join us because it is a very serious thing to do a motion of reconsideration. And so I want to point out that we do have them on the agenda, as it is correct and procedurally to allow members of our council, if they wish to bring these forward, to bring them forward in a timely manner so that the motions to reconsider are there. So I'll go to the clerk if she has anything she wants to add to those brief comments, and then I'll read the motion as presented.
Thank you, Your Worship. For you to the rest of council, Councillor Leishman has asked for 2 motions of reconsideration to be put on the agenda tonight. The first one is Fairgrounds Road. I just want to remind council procedurally that a motion to reconsider is not debatable. It's not amendable. The mover is allowed to just state why they're requesting the motion to reconsideration, but no debate can go any further than that. If the motion to reconsider is decided in the affirmative, then the reconsideration of the original motion will be the next order of business, which I've included on the agenda if that's the case that happens. And then I'm here for any procedural advice throughout the motions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members of council, in a moment, Tom, I mentioned it earlier in a previous section. This is procedural gymnastics, and I believe we're doing the best we can, given our procedure bylaw that is with us. And I think that we will do our best to, as a council, to follow it. And we will draw upon the advice of our clerk and or our CAO if necessary to follow it. All right, Tom, did you have a question?
Just a statement, Doug, could the clerk, Sasha, just explain for the public benefit why you said this is a reconsideration is a serious matter, and we do have a routine, and when we normally, how do we normally do it? The time period and the voting.
My comment about it being a serious matter is it is serious. It's serious in the fact that council has given a direction, and yet a member of council who's asked for it to be reconsidered. at a appropriately held council meeting. And so because of that, the best thing to do is to do it immediately following the minutes. So the minutes are what contain the motion that is being reconsidered. And so we need to do it directly underneath business arising from the minutes. And that's why it's an important issue to me and very serious thing to do. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to reiterate, any decision of council is a serious decision, and a reconsideration of any decision of council is also another serious motion to make. So I think that's where the statement comes from.
That's good.
If I may, what I was referring to is just the routine that we go through. We have to, normally we would wait 6 months. And there's a vote that we take. And that's what I'm talking about. You know, why?
Okay, I can help you with that, Councillor, and thank you.
I know what it is. I say for the public.
Certain. Madam Clerk, go right ahead.
Thank you. Currently, our procedural bylaw under section 2.3 just says, if a matter has previously been considered, it should not be reconsidered by such a body within the next 6 months. So we are bringing this consideration forward, and then we're going to follow any Robert's Rules of Order for anywhere that our procedure bylaw is silent.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, Council, and Councillor Leishman, just going to acknowledge that you did contact the clerk and put them on. So I'll read your motion. Okay. Just nodding. Thank you, Madam. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Leishman. Motion to reconsider. Be it resolved that Council of the Township Clerk hereby reconsider the motion passed at March 7, 2022 Council meeting approving reduction of speed limit and expenditure to do so on Fairgrounds Road related to staff report PW 007-2022. And can I have Councillor Leishman show me her acknowledgement of moving the motion, which she is going to speak. Go ahead, Councillor Leishman.
Thank you. I think it's pretty obvious why I'm asking for this. I've received many letters, phone calls, which is unusual for me. I don't get too many phone calls. And of course, a petition, which I didn't see at the last meeting. In fact, I heard a rumbling of it, but nothing came forward. So there's a lot of reasons why, and I think we've discussed a lot of it already tonight. So I would just put the motion forward, please.
All right, thank you. I'm looking for the seconder. Seconder on the motion, Councillor Deneen. I'll take you as a seconder. Appreciate that. Is there, as the clerk said, there's no debate. Yes, Deputy Mayor, you have a question?
I'm sorry, you're right. We have to have the vote. There's no debate. Sorry.
Yeah, there's no debate as per Robert's Rule of Order, I think. Madam Clerk, thank you for acknowledging that. So Council, I will prepare to call the motion as been presented. Moved by Leishman, seconded by Deneen for item 8.1, which is the motion to reconsider. Those in favor? Opposed? Anyone opposed? The motion will carry. Thank you. Council will now, as directed by the clerk, return to our original motion. So my interpretation of this, if I may, Madam Clerk, is that I will read the entire motion as has been our procedure, and then I'll look for a mover and seconder on the original motion. Madam Clerk? Tom, go ahead. You're muted, sorry. The old mute button again.
Yeah, it would be nice to get together again.
No kidding.
So just a clarification now, I want to be proper. I indicated that I was going to move at this point of the meeting someplace in here, a motion to refer this now to staff to answer some of the questions that have been asked. The main one being the liability. Now, do I do it now, Madam Clerk, or do I wait for Doug to read the motion?
Yeah, that'd be the clerk call. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. So first we have to get the motion on the floor. So Mayor Measures will read the motion, get a mover and a seconder, and then it's open for debate, amendments, and referrals or deferrals.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to say the same, but I just defer to the clerk. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. The motion's on the floor, and I will read the original motion, then I'll look for a mover and seconder. Be it resolved, the Council of the Township Theatre hereby one, approve reducing the speed limit on Fairgrounds Road from 80 kilometers per hour to 60 kilometers per hour, from County Road 9 to County Road 91, and from 34 side road to the town limits known as Beechwood Road, to address vertical alignment and cross-section constraints on multimodal travel by directing staff to present the speed reduction bylaw at the next council meeting, and item 2, that the expenditure in the amount of $18,551.64 to reduce the speed on the roads be funded through the Public Works capital budget for traffic control devices. So at this point, we'll look for a mover and a seconder. A mover on the floor, please. Are you requesting to speak or are you moving, Tom?
Well, I was going to make my motion.
It needs to be moved and seconded, as the clerk said. Are you moving the motion?
No.
No, there's no.
Point of order, Your Worship.
Please, Deputy Mayor.
Just a point of order is, and I'm hoping the Madam Clerk can clarify this. You can't move a motion that you're not going to support. So
That's
if there's
correct.
somebody who's going to move this and is not going to support it, you cannot move it.
Okay.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm unaware of that in Robert's Rules of Order, because when you move or second a motion, when debate happens, the mover and seconder could get subsequent information that could change the way that they vote at the end.
That's right.
That is right.
Because I was challenged on that once before where I moved the motion and was told that I couldn't do that because I wasn't supporting the motion. But I will follow the clerk's decision.
Fair enough. Again, we've just gone through the first time. For the second time, I'm looking for a mover and seconder on the motion as read. Is there a mover and seconder on the motion? Councillor Leishman. Thank you. Is there a seconder? There's no seconder on the floor. So Councillor Broderick, are you seconding the motion? Thank you. Thank you. I was just going to say going once, going twice, going 3 times. So we will accept Councillor Leishman and Councillor Broderick as movers and seconders on the motion as presented. Now, I believe we're at the point where we can have debate or deferrals or recommendations or so on. Actually, guys, I'm going to go to Tom first because he's insisted on it a couple times earlier. So we'll go to Tom and then we'll go to Leishman and then Burton. Go ahead, Mr. Patterson.
So in the interest of cutting through this, I have prepared the motion. I can read it. The mayor, the clerk has a copy, and I'll read from it if I may, and then ask for a seconder.
I'll allow you to read it. Go ahead.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby refer the motion to staff to determine what legal exposure may arise should Clearview Council fail to approve the staff recommendation reducing the speed limit on Fairgrounds Road from 80 to 60 and from County Road 9 to 91 and from 34 side road to the town limits, Beechwood Road, to address vertical alignment and cross-section constraints for multimodal travel by directing staff to present the speed reduction bylaw at the next council meeting. That's the original motion. And number 2, that staff return a report for council's consideration at our, and I've left it to council and staff's discretion, next meeting. I'm looking for a second.
All right. Madam Clerk, I hope you've got that copied down. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Burton.
Yes, there is one part of that motion, Councillor, that I struggle with. I agree with your motion in principle, but where you said in the event that staff does not pass this motion, you can't put a condition on a deferral. You're either deferring it or you're not deferring it. You put a condition. If you could read that again, I would jump in.
I will read it again, but what I was saying was the motion is about the motion is to get more information so that we are informed, okay, whether we should go with this or not. And one of the pieces that's obvious in this discussion, so it's good it came out, is that there may be some members of council that would like to know what their liability exposure is before they say yes or no to this. That's what I'm saying.
I
So
totally
if someone
understand.
wants wordsmith it, then that's fine.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I agree. We should be referring this to get a legal opinion and the other information that you request. But in there, you stated it, if you could read the motion again, and I will stop you at that point where I have a problem, okay?
I'll if I may, I'll just get close to it so we don't have to read it all over again.
It was near the beginning.
Yes, okay. Be it resolved that the Township of Clearview hereby refer the motion to staff to determine what legal exposure may arise should, maybe I should say if, is that what you're saying? If Clearview Council fails to approve the staff recommendation. All it means is.
That's the part. That's the part. To me, you're putting and perhaps the clerk can clarify. To me, you're putting a condition on the referral. It's if staff this. I think we just need to get an opinion, what the legal opinion is of where we stand now. Period. Did we proceed without? Did we not follow our own procedures, or didn't we? And what's our legal position on? I don't like that bit about putting if. I agree with everything else in what you're saying. It's that part there that I have a struggle with.
I think the clerk had another version when we were talking about it. If the clerk wants to read that one and see if that helps everybody.
Sasha?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just bear with me. I'll just bring it up. So you could have a referral that has a mover and a seconder, and it says, be it resolved that the report and motion regarding reducing the speed limit on Fairgrounds Road from the March 7th meeting be referred back to staff to discuss with legal counsel the liability implications for the speed reduction, and that the report be brought back to council at the blank meeting to outline the liability response.
When I read it, I was fine with it. As the mover, I would accept that as a totally friendly amendment. Rewrites the whole thing.
I'm sorry, Your Worship. Clerk, could you please read that again one more time? A little bit slower.
Yep, sorry. Through Your Worship to Deputy Mayor Burton. Be it resolved that the report and motion regarding reducing the speed limit on Fairgrounds Road from the March 7, 2022 meeting be referred back to staff to discuss with legal counsel the liability implications for the speed reductions, and that the report be brought back to council at the blank meeting to outline the liability response.
Thank you. So, Your Worship, if I may, to the clerk. So I'm asking your opinion now. Does that imply, because I want a legal opinion on whether we followed our own procedures or not. So would that be included in how you've described the legal opinion there?
We can include that, but for clarity, you can also include it in the motion to refer if the mover is amenable to that. We can include that.
That seems logical. So why don't we go to CIO Ferguson? Because to be honest, Tom, this is a whole lot simpler if you just simply ask the CIO to get a legal opinion. That's all you're asking.
That's how it started. John and I talked about it, and he said he needed a motion, and it's.
Of course he does. Absolutely. Because staff just can't go out and get that without council giving a direction to do so. Mr. Ferguson, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. So if you refer to my office, we'll look into it. I think there's a couple of things that everybody wants to look at. Do we carry a liability if the reductions now do not occur as a result of the design of the road? And then the second issue is our traffic calming policy, does it require us to do consultation on a speed reduction sign on a decision that council would make? And that's what we would have our lawyers look into. They'll take a look at our traffic calming policy. Just going back to what Dan said, is a speed reduction, speed signs is not in our traffic calming policy, but a lot of other stuff is. And we should have our lawyers weigh in to see if we've misstepped with the policy or not. And we'll report back on that. Does that cover it for everybody? If it's referred, that's what I intend to do.
I'll accept it as the mover.
All right. And now I'm still looking for a clear seconder on the motion now presented by both Patterson and Helmke. Councillor Leishman, you're going to second it?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Just confirming. All right. Members of council, usually on these items, there's no debate, but certainly the clarity of the direction needs to be given. And the clarity to the staff, as I interpret the motion, is that the staff are going to be reviewing the liability impact on the municipality, given that we have our traffic calming policy and a report from our staff about reducing speed on some areas, area roads. Is that a clarity? Do I see nodding heads from the Patterson and or our clerk? Is that correct? Yes, go ahead.
Your worship, would you like me to include that in the motion to refer? Do you want me to add that portion?
I'm just looking for simplicity for people to understand. I think that this council is certainly tuned enough into this issue, and we've heard a lot of debate tonight that we know what we're talking about. But when we're considering motions, as Mr. Ziegel pointed out, we have to do it correctly and follow our own procedures. So we can't just assume that the staff have been given clear direction to find out whether we have liability or not. I think that is what we need to do, is be clear that we're asking if there is a potential liability that leaves us open for liability with the results that have been now presented to us so far. Madam Clerk, are you comfortable with what I've asked? Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. I am comfortable. If you want me to reread the motion, I can. I didn't know if council wanted to include a meeting date that they're hoping to have the report back, or just put upcoming meeting.
Well, I think that would have to be based on what the results of the legal review, given the timeline and the ability of our staff, as well as the contracted staff being lawyers to do that. So I would suggest that no later than June the 30th. That sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I mean, Councillor Broderick, you had something you wanted to ask, and I apologize for not getting to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I was just looking for something in the wording to reflect our liability as well. Did we follow our procedure, or did we put our thumb on the scale?
I don't think that's going to be an emotion, but I appreciate the concern and the use of language there for sure. Madam Clerk, if I can, would you be able to prepare it and show it on the screen for us to all have a look at? You'll be able to get that prepped up. And maybe while you're doing that, John Ferguson, CAO, estimated timeline on be able to produce this type of answer for council? Just a good guess.
I don't think the legal review should take too long. And when's our next meeting? A week?
No, April 7 or 14 or something like that.
11th, I think.
11, that's one. Yeah.
I might be able to have it ready for the 11th.
I'm going to be away at that meeting, by the way. I'm going to be at a conference.
That's right. We're all at the Rhodes conference. Let's let's go to the meeting later in the month.
All right.
Of April. We should have it all by then.
Fair enough. Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. I put the motion to refer up on the screen. If there's any wordsmithing that council would like me to work on.
Okay, is there any questions from members? Tom, go ahead. Your mute button's got you again.
All right, sorry about that. I've seen the original, the one that Clerk had done earlier, and I was just asking a question. Did you not include the insurance issue in that one?
You're
Or
correct.
let me just ask, is there an understanding that when you look at the legal question, it actually gives us an answer in terms of our insurability?
Through your worship to Councillor Patterson, we can check with CEO Ferguson if that's something that he will also look into with our insurance company regarding the liability.
Go ahead.
Look, I'm prepared. Whatever council wants me to look into, I can. I can send a request out to our insurance company to find out what their position is on this as it relates to any liability that we'd have. I'm going to ask our legal counsel any liability that may potentially occur if we have a design area that requires a speed reduction. What's our liability, if any? And then on the last one will be related to our traffic calming policy. Does it apply in this circumstance for speed reduction signage? And I think that those are the three areas that I think will give us some good information.
Members of council, anything further? I don't see anybody, don't hear anybody. All right, you can close that up and we'll go back to the motion as we have it now to defer. All right, Madam Clerk, would you like to call a recorded motion on this, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one moment.
At my request.
A recorded vote has been requested by Mayor Doug Measures. Would council like me to read out the motion on the floor again? Yes, just for clarity. Okay. A moment. Moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Leishman. Be it resolved that the report and motion regarding reducing the speed limit on Fairgrounds Road from the March 7th, 2022 meeting be referred back to staff to discuss with legal counsel and the township's insurance company the liability implications for the speed reductions, and that the report be brought back to council no later than June 30th, 2022 to outline the liability response. When I call your name, please state your vote by saying yes if you're in favor of the motion or no if you're not. Since the mayor requested the recorded vote, he will vote first. Mayor Measures?
I will be voting yes.
Councillor Denis?
Yes.
Councillor Broderick?
Yes.
Councillor Walker?
Yes.
Councillor Patterson?
Yes.
Councillor Leishman?
Yes.
The motion carries. Oh, sorry. My apologies, Deputy Mayor Burton. My apologies for forgetting you.
In favor.
Madam Clerk, we caught you in the trapeze netting, so you didn't fall to the ground, okay? We caught you just before, so we can call that motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Members of council, item number 8.2 is on our agenda, so I will read number 8.2, and as per the recommendation to reconsider, as I pointed out, there's no debate, and we will look for a seconder, etc. Similar to the motion we just did. All right, 8.2 says, be it resolved that council of the Township of Clearview hereby reconsider the motion to pass at March 7, 2022 council meeting, approving reduction of the speed limit and the expenditure to do so on Riverside Drive and Concession 6 North related to staff report PW 007 2022. And this would be moved by Councillor Leishman. I'm looking for a seconder. Is there a seconder on the motion? Councillor Deneen. Thank you. And council, is there any question? All right, then I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that is there opposed? Thank you, that still carries. Thank you very much. And council, we now have the original motion back on the floor, and I will read it, and then I'll look for a mover and seconder. Be it resolved, the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, approve reducing the speed limit on Riverside Drive from 70 kilometers per hour to 60 kilometers per hour from County Road 9 to 1516 Side Road, and Concession 6 North from County Road 91 for 1.1 kilometers be reduced from 80 kilometers per hour to 60 kilometers per hour, and from where the 50 kilometers per hour zone ends to the public side road be changed from 80 kilometers per hour to 60 kilometers per hour to address horizontal alignment constraints by directing staff to present the speed reduction bylaw at the next council meeting. And item 2, that the expenditure in the amount of $11,854 to reduce the speed on the road be funded through the Public Works capital budget for traffic control devices. Council, a mover and seconder on this. Mr. Walker, is there a seconder? Going once. Going twice. Madam Clerk, you don't get to second it. Anyway, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Measures. I just want to make a procedural note here. The council did just pass a referral back to staff to get a legal opinion, as this is related to the similar topic, the same as the bylaw for concession 10 that will come up later in the night. Procedurally, council may want to consider referring this back for a legal opinion if you're already doing it for another road, but I will leave that up to council. I just wanted to make that notation.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Leishman, are you, Councilor Leishman, are you seconding? Seconding the motion, thank you. I'm just checking for that. Now we have the motion on the floor. Is there any, Mr. Patterson?
So thank you, Connie. Now I'm going to move the motion to include referral. We might as well do them all for consistency. We might as well do them all together. So my motion is the same with as the fairground one, unless someone advises me differently, for this motion on Riverside and concession site.
Okay, I would recommend that we include, if I may, Tom, because there are 3 sections of this road that are being assessed, we need to make sure that we get clarity on the direction from the legal opinion on the fact that there are 3 sections that are, it's not one consistent section, as in the previous motion was one full recommendation. So I would ask through the staff, if this deferral is successful, that be included, is to recommend all 3 sections that are being acknowledged.
Yeah.
Now,
as
Tom,
the mover, I accept that as a friendly amendment if we want to write it in that way.
Madam Clerk, get your typewriter going. There you go. Looking for a seconder on Tom's motion to referral. Deputy Mayor Burton, the referral to the second. Madam Clerk, would you be able to prepare something there?
Thank you, Your Worship. So we use similar wording as the one that was just passed. So the wording is moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Burton. Be it resolved that the report and motion regarding reducing the speed limit on Riverside Drive and concession 6 North, the 3 different sections of the road from the March 7, 2022 meeting, be referred back to staff to discuss with legal counsel and the township's insurance company the liability implications for the speed reductions, and that the report be brought back to council no later than June 30th, 2022 to outline the liability response.
Okay. Any questions on that motion as presented? Seeing none, I'm prepared to call the motion. Members of council, do we want a recorded motion? Then I'm going to call the motion. All those in favor? That does carry unanimous. We can mark that in the minutes if you wouldn't mind. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I also want to acknowledge, thank you, Councillor Leishman, for bringing forward these recommendations underneath business arising from the minutes. I appreciate you very much doing that. All right, members of council, we are now at item number 9, communications from the mayor. There's a few things going on that we need to talk about. Communications from the mayor. The first one I want to mention is we did have a closed session. There is no report to report at this time. So I have nothing to rise and report from closed session. Second is Borden Canadian Armed Forces Day and Air Show, a sponsorship. Gosh, it was like 3 years ago we talked about this very thing, and now the air show and Air Forces Day is coming back to Base Borden, scheduled for June the 18th, and they're asking us for their continued support. Council, I'm going to ask that we rise to workshop to determine the value to put in this recommendation. Deputy Mayor Burton, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to put forth a motion that we support the, I believe it was the half-page ad, which was $945 for it to come out of the community grants. Both Councillor Leishman and I have discussed it since we are the two who make those recommendations, and I feel in this time, what's going on in the world, it's important to definitely support our armed forces. And the fact that this didn't happen last year and they gave us their money back, I suggest that we go ahead with half-page ad at, I believe it's $945.
Yeah, I think that's the right value. I don't have it pulled up in front of me. Madam Clerk, could you address that? I don't have it right here in front of me.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm actually going to share my screen. Just bear with me for a moment just to bring it up so I have some clarity, because there's two different sponsorships packages that they're asking for here. So the first one is the Souvenir program advertising, which is what I believe Deputy Mayor Burton is referring to. And I believe he's referring to the inside pages here and do the half-page ad. And then there's also the option for the sponsorship packages here, which back in 2020, Council did approve at being the supporting sponsor private for $2,000. And then subsequently, the event was unfortunately canceled due to COVID-19. So those monies were returned to the township. And then we're also requesting that the funds actually come out of Council's Public Relations Fund, because there is a significant amount in that budget that can be utilized for these sponsorship packages.
Yeah, I was referring to the half-page ad in the yeah, that one, the Souvenir program. Yes.
Okay, so Deputy Mayor Burton has brought forward the recommendation to support this in the item of half-page 945 plus HST. Is there anybody else who want to speak? Again, this is workshopping, trying to complete the motion before I look for mover and seconder. You guys aren't all talked out yet, are you? Go ahead, Councillor Broderick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I agree with Deputy Mayor Burton. It's something I believe we should support, especially in these times. And it's something that we certainly haven't seen for a few years. So yeah, I would support it.
Okay. And for clarity there, that is the Council Public Relations Fund, Deputy Mayor. You comfortable with that clarity there, Deputy Mayor? Sorry, you're muted.
That's fine. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's part of the motion. And so we're looking at 945 plus HST. All right. And is there anybody else with any other questions? All right. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Denis. You had a question?
I'm sorry, Sasha. What was it that we sponsored them for before, or we gave them and they returned to us?
That's correct. I can help. That we did sponsor. You know what, Councillor Janine? It was just before you joined us.
Yes.
How long ago it was? There was a sponsorship package worth approximately $2,000 that included a whole group of things. There it is, right there. That included the recognition of the township as well as some advertising, I believe, in the guide. Is that in there? I'm kind of recalling what that said.
It was just in the guide, not in like a souvenir program.
Yeah, I think you're right. Go ahead.
Speak to this. Yeah, sorry, the print is just a little bit tiny, so I'll sneak it down here. So you get a logo in the Souvenir program, which is 5,000 copies, the logo in the board and citizen newsletter and event guide, hyperlink logo on the event website, a group thank you through their social media posts and their Facebook pages. We get 10 general admission passes, and then we get recognition in the post-event thank you in the board and citizen newsletter, and then other promotional opportunities that can be negotiated with the sponsorship team if you go with the $2,000 sponsorship package.
I'm just questioning why we're with things the way they are these days, why we would not continue in that direction. I'm just wondering about what people have to say about that and continuing that sponsorship in that amount of money.
Fair enough, and that's why we're having that debate here, or that discussion. You know, it was presented to us 3 years ago for a $2,000 package, and now the deputy mayor in this discussion is bringing forward the half-page ad. Deputy Mayor, yes, there you are. Hi.
Yes, I mean, after talking with Councillor Leishman, it was, you know, what did we think? Bottom line is, what did we think council would support? and we're trying to show a little bit of what's the word I'm trying to think of, some, you know, fiscal responsibility here. It has been tougher times, and you know, we've had more expenses go out the door and all that, so we just felt that's that $1,000 was appropriate. Would certainly support if we wanted to put more, but I just felt at the time that was it. But if somebody wanted to amend the motion to go to 2,000, you got my vote.
Okay. Councillor Deneen, does that help you? All right.
Yes, thank you. But I'm that's one thing that I think we shouldn't be scrimping on. And I know that there's a lot of places for money to go, but we haven't been putting ourselves out there that terribly much, have we? I honestly don't know. I'd like to see it go ahead at the $2,000, but it would be a vote.
I will support the amendment.
Well, there you go. Councillor Deneen and then the deputy mayor. Anybody else with any takers on this discussion? Nobody? Yes, Councillor Leishman, go ahead.
Yes, I would support the $2,000 package, because if I remember correctly, excuse me, we were going to give the tickets away as a little prize to some of the residents in Clearview, and I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Phyllis, excuse me, Phyllis is right. We've done very little in the last 2 years, if anything.
And Connie, if you're going to give those tickets away, that's amazing. That's good. That's people that can go out and do something. I think that's a good idea, actually.
Well, actually,
I didn't realize that was part of it.
That was the mayor's suggestion last time.
You bet.
And I don't know if I remember it because I have a terrible memory, but I do. So.
Well, I'll jump in here because I thought it'd be my turn to do that. My recommendation, if I recall, was that we would draw upon our volunteers who serve in our various committees, and basically, you know, find some people in those groups who would want to take the opportunity to go, and then we could give away the rest of them through the food bank or through other opportunities. So, I mean, to me, there's lots of ways to give it away. The point is that, you know, in the end, we're making, as Councillor Deneen points out, a recommendation to do some promotion on a local community event where Base Borden is a major employer and an economic engine in our community, to be quite honest, and celebrating and honoring our armed services is never a bad thing. So I think there's a lot of positives here as to why we should step up and do this. So,
we're not giving it away, we're paying it forward.
Correct. That's actually more accurate, and I appreciate your use of language there. Anybody else with any questions or any yes, Barry, Deputy Mayor.
So I'm asking Councillor Deneen, are you making an amendment to the motion? Please say yes.
Yes, sorry about that. Yes. Thank you for the prompting.
I will accept that as a friendly change. Okay.
Guys, as I announced a minute ago, we're in workshop trying to complete the motion, so we're getting a complete motion here. Any objections to to the discussion to move forward with the $2,000? No? Thank you, councillors. Madam Clerk, I will read the motion then, and then I'll look for a mover and seconder. Be it resolved, the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby approve funding in the amount of $2,000. I'm going to add the word plus HST to be sponsored, to be a sponsor of the Borden Canadian Armed Forces Day and Air Show scheduled for June 18, 19, 2022, and that the amount be funded from Council's Public Relations Fund. Is that copied, Madam Clerk? You're good? Thank you. Mover, please. Deputy Mayor, second. Seconder. Leishman, thank you. Councilor Leishman, any discussion on this this motion? All right, I would give you one thing to discuss, and that is that we will have a little workshop session between staff and councilors to come up with a way on how we're actually going to distribute these passes. How's that? That'll come closer to the date. All right, anything further? Nothing. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, Nbca board highlights, which is 9.3. Tom, did you want to speak to that, or did you want to leave that to your board report? You're our Nbca representative.
Yes, yeah, I'll combine the two.
Sure.
Then, if you don't mind. So I did give note that the last board meeting that the board approved the inventory of programs and services for the submission to the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, MECP. And this was with regards to the transition to the new regs for the conservation authorities in Ontario. And I did say that I would have a report at this meeting, and that was my hope, but I got busy on some other topic. And so I'm going to say that I would like you to, because it's been highlighted in the report, if you download the Nbca inventory and programs, it's highlighted there, and run through them just to get familiar. You don't have to study them in depth. Just see the scope of things that are category 1, 2, and 3. It will form the discussion eventually. This is what I'm going to ask of council. It'll be your choice, that we actually do a workshop and decide what services we will support from the Nbca. That's the whole procedure happening across Canada, Ontario. And that will form the meat of our memorandum of understanding with regards to the fundings above the mandated programs that conservation authorities in Ontario now have. So just a heads up on that. And it's a lot of reading. A lot of it you'll be familiar with. Just on the Nbca again, there is a side project. I can't remember if I mentioned this or not. There's a Mad River restoration program that's being looked at right now. There's a number of this. It's a very broad group. I was glad to see CAO Ferguson there. In fact, if he hasn't already, CEO Hevner wanted to pass his thanks on to our CAO, our Chief of Staff, for his interest in being in the meeting. So it's just in its forming stages. Money will be required, but there seems to be a lot of people that are interested. And anything that, for example, if we hire a morphologist to look at some of the features of the Mad River, we may be able to get a side trip to some of the problem areas that we have right now in the Mad, some of them being right behind Elizabeth Street, and some a little bit further down in Carruthers Park. So that we're keep you in track on that. The last thing I mentioned that I was looking at a simple motion to reduce the number of board meetings. And that motion will come up at the end of the week, simply going from 11 to 7. Just make it a little more efficient. It's a lot of work between board meetings. Councilor Leishman, I appreciate how much work the staff does. And sometimes not a lot of response, but from the board. So I try to make it a little easier for both and have more efficient meetings. So that's my report.
All right, well, that was Nbca board highlights. I'll be reviewing that with the deputy mayor tomorrow at our council meeting, actually at county council.
Good.
The county's receiving that information as well. So,
yes.
All right, thank you. Keep us informed, Tom, as to what is going on there at the Nbca. Item 9.4, Green Shirt Day organ donation awareness. This is something that's close to my heart, as members of the council and the public may know. So I will like to read a recommendation, and then I'll look for a mover and seconder. Be it resolved, the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby, at the request of the mayor, proclaim the month of April as Organ Donor Awareness and Registration Month, and specifically April the 7th, 2022, as Green Shirt Day in honor of Logan Boulette Effect, and to remember the Humboldt Broncos bus tragedy, and also that a flag be raised at the Township Clearview Emergency Hub. Is there a mover and seconder on the motion? Mr. Broderick. Councillor Deneen, thank you very much. As you know, Council, this is very important to me, and I appreciate your support. Members of Council, are there any questions? I will call the motion. All those in favor? Why, thank you, Council. It passes unanimous. I look forward to doing that. And the last thing I have is a simple recommendation. Be it resolved, the Council of the Township Clearview hereby receive the communications from the Mayor for information. Mover and seconder. Deneen and Walker, thank you. All those in favor? And that carries, thank you. We're now on to item 10, county reports for information. The Deputy Mayor reached out to me today to tell me that he has something he wanted to talk about. Deputy Mayor, what do you got for us for the county report tonight?
Thank you, Your Worship. Along with many things that happen at county, today is March 21st, International Day of the Forest. And I am happy to pronounce that the County of Simcoe is celebrating its 100th anniversary of the Simcoe County Forest, and which consists of 33,000 acres involving over 150 properties, and which is known as one of or the largest municipal forest in the country. And we were honored by our fellow foresters throughout the country, and its national honors recognized as the Forest Capital of Canada for 2022, Simcoe County. So that's a wonderful experience and a wonderful recommendation. And I also want to mention that our Simcoe County forests operate at a great profit every year. They're self-sustained part of our county, and they do a great job, and our forester and his team do a great job as well. So thank you.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at our county council meeting. I would like to mention one item in county business. That is that the CAO and I met with members of the economic development staff from the county in regards to a discussion about Peace Naturals and the unfortunate announcement that they are closing up their facility. And the economic development team are working from the county side to assist both with the employees, as well as perhaps helping us to secure future use for the campus out there on the 12th concession. So just giving you all council a update that I have enjoyed that conversation and want to foster that relationship with the county economic development team. And I know the deputy mayor sits on the committee as a county representative. I just wanted to give Barry a heads up that I met with some of the staff members who serve in that department. So that was really good. All right, council, I'm going to go to ward reports next. We've got a few things here yet to discuss. So I tell you what, I'm going to start with Councillor Deneen as the first one on my list. And then it's Councillor Walker and then Councillor Broderick. Hello, Phyllis.
Hello, thank you very much. Just a lot going on at our little Nottawa Hall. The second annual scrap metal drive that I've been involved with anyway is going to be reintroduced this coming week. Many thanks to Brendan Thompson and his staff at Huronia Auto Records and Recycling. We really appreciate their support. April 9th, Wednesday, April 6th. It's an evening registration for Nottawa Minor Fastball at the Nottawa Hall. It's Wednesday, April 6th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. So that's another chance for people that work during the day or work on weekends to register kids and up for their baseball. And we've decided that it's a go, the third annual Craft Beer, Wine and Cider Festival, April 23rd from 2 to 8 p.m. I'll probably announce it one more time yet before we get there. And it's $20 admission at the door. and it gets you samples and a mug to do that with. So appreciate anybody that wants to come out and support it. And it sounds like the beer is coming from all over the area. So it should be a really interesting thing to have go on. And that's it for me. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Janine. It's always exciting to hear about the baseball registrations. That certainly gives me a feeling that spring is coming. So thank you for that. And I look forward to joining you and the volunteers for the annual Beer and Cider Festival. Excellent, good news. All right, Councillor Walker's next, then Broderick, and then the Deputy Mayor. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. March the 12th, I was very fortunate to bring greetings on behalf of the township to the Habitat for Humanity 20th anniversary groundbreaking at 219 John Street in Stayner. I also like to thank Councillor Broderick and Councillor McKechnie for being there. This is the third build in Clearview. We have a duplex on Sutherland, a duplex on Quebec, and now the single family on 219 John, and very fortunate to meet the family who are very excited with their two small children. March 16th, I sat in and listened by Zoom to the Locke Avenue information session. And just to highlight, the Stayner Siskins are now starting round 2 Thursday night against, I believe, against Alliston, starting at 8 o'clock in our arena. So that's just to keep you updated with that. And that's it, Your Worship.
Your Worship, are you there? I'm going to, yes, go ahead, Clerk.
Deputy Mayor Burton, I was just going to ask if you wanted to resume the chair of the meeting.
Sure, be happy to. Okay, I believe Councillor Broderick was next.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. On March the 3rd, I attended the Creemore BIA meeting. March the 12th, as Councillor Walker already mentioned, I attended the groundbreaking with him and Councillor McKechnie. Actually, that was an awesome event. A very, very cold, bitter day, but I was surprised at the turnout. There must have been more than 100 people there for that groundbreaking, and the young couple involved, their 2 young children were there as well. It was quite an emotional day for them, and it was very rewarding for the rest of us, I believe. March the 22nd, attended a Clearview Public Library special meeting, and that's about it.
Thank you, Councillor Broderick. Your Worship, I'm going to turn the chair back over to you.
Thank you.
Second time.
You know, it's funny, you know, I wanted to take a drink of water, so I switched to the other camera and then it just locked everything. So there you go. Had to restart. Oh, technology. I can't wait till this is over. Councillor Walker, first of all, I want to thank you for attending the Habitat for Humanity on my behalf. I appreciate you very much being there, and you look great in those pictures. Good job. And thank you, Councillor Broderick, as well, for being there. Deputy Mayor, actually, it's your turn next, and then I was going to go to Councillor Patterson. So, and then Leishman is our last one. So go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I wanted to thank Mayor Measures, Councillor Broderick, and Rory for being there, for putting up the Scout flag during Scout and Guide Week. And I saw it was very cold and windy, but like troopers, they were out there. Thank you for that, and I'm sure all the scouting organizations throughout Clearview appreciated that as well. And I also wanted to thank all of council on behalf of the Station on the Green Committee for your financial support through this time when we had to get things done. So, and that's about it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. So I guess we're going to go to Councillor Patterson and then Councillor Leishman. And you're muted again too. See, we're all having technical difficulties here tonight. I'm really getting tired of Zoom. I don't know about the rest of you guys. I really am.
I did my report during the previous Nbca report, just combined them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. Councillor Leishman, how you doing?
I'm fine.
Good. I'm awake.
Well, that's good. I hear a lot of people are having withdrawals from the time change. So
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I attended library and I attended chamber. The chamber had their AGM, and Kelly Kramer is now the president again for another year. She's done such a great job. It's hard to take over from her. So I don't know anybody that can do what she can do, but the chamber is doing quite well. I had some citizens on the 12th concession who asked me to ask at council about their concern over Cronus closing.
Yeah.
They're worried that it might be turned into industrial, or it could be abandoned, and they want to make sure that council knows that they are concerned about that. And so I'm sure that anything that happens to Cronus will have a lot of notice. And I don't see that the zoning could be changed anyway, because we are so much about agricultural. So, but you know what? I guess we see how that goes, don't we? Anyway, that was it, I think. Happy spring, everyone. I have my robin on today.
Oh, good. Good for you. Yeah, I saw a robin actually yesterday. So there you go. Thank you very much. All right. Yes, and it's about Kronos. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, that's I am working with the economic development team at the county about that, and certainly our economic development team are aware of it as well. So we're working on it and we're paying attention. Thank you for that. All right, members, I think we can move on in our agenda. We've got a bunch of reports and so on. We also have a brief presentation from our from I believe our building official is here. So let's just keep moving on. Draft plan of subdivision extension 209 Margaret Street. All right, back to Margaret Street we go. Be it resolved, the Council of the Township Clearview hereby receive report CS 007-2022 draft plan of subdivision extension dated March 21, 2022, and item 2, that Council support the recommendation of the Community Services Department to extend the draft plan of subdivision for file number 2017-068 SD, property known as 209 Margaret Street, Stayner, for an additional 5-year period, with the new lapse date being March 21, 2027. Wow, can I have a mover and seconder, and then we'll hear from our staff. Mr. Broderick, Ms. Deneen, thank you. Hello, Rosalind, thank you for waiting.
Good evening. So I'm happy to just, you guys have my report and my recommendation. Yep. If you'd like to ask any questions, I'm available. Or
thank you for being there. Members of council, do you have any questions to our staff about the report? Yes, Councillor Walker.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. To Rosin, how soon are they ready to start putting shovels in the ground? I realized that they talked about the other one up on up in the Church Hill there as well for the spring gardens. So whereabouts are they with both of those then for the 5-year extension on this?
Rosalind?
Thank you through the mayor to Councillor Walker. So I think as I outlined in the report, there has been a few sort of infrastructure delays that were kind of out of their hands. One obviously being the water allocation, and that still is a bit of a, while we're starting that process, the water is certainly something that they're going to have to work towards. And we don't really have an indication at this time when they're going to get started on this particular project, because they are actually ramping up to start construction on the Simcoe Gardens project, as you mentioned. So my understanding is they probably want to get the Simcoe Gardens underway, and then they will probably start with clearing conditions on their draft plan.
All right. Councillor Walker, are you comfortable with that? Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, I saw Councillor Patterson. Did you have a question, Tom?
I think you answered it partially. This this was an inquiry that was made through me with regards to phase 1. Refer this to this as 1 or 1A. Does that mean anything? And I remember the answer back then was it had allocations and it was going to proceed. So I guess that what you're saying is, well, I'm kind of wondering why we need I'm not opposing the 5-year. I'm just surprised to hear that we have to extend it for 5 years. Is that just because it's coming up for renewal and we're just extending 5 years, or do we anticipate them taking 5 years to build? Or do they? And
couple of both columns on that one. Rosalind, what's your comment?
Thank you, through the mayor, to Councillor Patterson. So the request is that they extend their draft plan approval for an additional 5 years. And this is a common request that we have through our developers. It's like the whole point is that you give them the 5 years and it's hopeful that they will start the process within that time frame, because obviously if they get close to the end of that 5-year approval, then they have to reapply again. And we certainly don't want to see a lapsing date on these draft plans, because they do take a lot of sort of time and energy. And so I believe the idea is that we give them 5 years and that they start their process within that time frame.
I guess the question was simple. I thought they were anxious to build, and so I was a little surprised that they needed 5 years to build, but because they've been asking us to move along.
Are you getting this confused with Ashton Meadows?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Mara Burton, she's on again, off again. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Hello. Any other members of council with any questions in regards to this question at 2:09? Margaret. All right, seeing none, I'm prepared to call the motion. Thank you, staff. Ross, council, you've got the motion. I believe we have a mover and seconder. Can I have a, I did have a mover and seconder. Yes, I did. Can I have all in favor, please? Thank you. That carries.
You know, you're not supposed to solicit votes.
No, I'm not. I'm just asking. Fair enough, Tom. Committee of Adjustment February report. Be it resolved, Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report CS 010-2022. It's the Committee of Adjustment February report dated March 21st, 2022 for information. Can I have a mover and seconder on this question? Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Leishman. Any questions? It's a pretty straightforward report this month.
Good.
Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to page 6. Imagine that. Building Department Activities Report. I believe Scott is with us. I'll read this, get a mover and seconder, and then we'll go to Scott. Nice to see you there, Scott. Building Department Activities recommendation be it resolved. Council, Township of Clearview hereby receive report CS 012-2022 Building Department Activities Report for 2021 year end and the March 21st, 2022 for information. Okay, mover and seconder on this report. Mr. Broderick, seconded. Seconder. Councillor Leishman, thank you very much. Scott McLeod, nice to see you. Would you like to review anything from your report?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight some of the highlights from the report, and also as part of the report, I am going to give a brief demonstration to council on our new web portal as well, and I'll do that towards the end.
Sure.
But in terms of highlights, again, the report illustrates that we've had another phenomenal year of building department activity. Our number of permits, construction value, and revenue is up. And a lot of that is based on residential construction increase. Again, the number of units from last year was 138, which is a dramatic increase from the previous year, which was 66. And so we continue to see that growth moving forward. in terms of some of the highlights, of course, it highlights some of our challenges and some of the successes related to COVID-19 restrictions that we had last year. Nobody really wants to revisit that information, but it does highlight all that. We survived. But it does highlight, that we had some staffing changes last year, and we, one of the things that we're quite pleased about, while we had one staff member that retired, we've seen progression of our existing employees through the building department and moving into different positions, and we're really proud and excited for them moving into those positions. And then we did bring on one new position for the building and planning assistant's role. The other end of it, the one large sort of project that we worked on last year, besides all the building department activity, was the finalizing of our new software. And that software was working with the building planning and bylaw services. And so that has been implemented, and we went live on January 17th of this year. It did involve a lot of testing and working with the software provider last year from all parties, a great deal of work, and again, a great deal of cooperation and participation by various departments, but also within those departments, all staff. We did have some power users that were more involved than others, but at the end of the day, all staff were committed to the project, involved in the project, and provided feedback in the project. And in the end, that's why it was so successful. And so as part of the report, I did want to just take you into the web portal of our new website. Just before I do that, I'll explain with our new software, there's sort of three components to it. There's the what they call or refer to as workspace, which is what all staff work with within the administration building that have access to it. So that's where we access the information and enter information. But there's a public portal portion of it where the public can access, request information, make submissions for building permits, bylaw complaints, and various other property information requests, and pay for various applications through this portal. And then the third component is a mobile inspection component. So both the bylaw department and the building inspection team, when they're in the field, have full access to everything that's in that database. Every document, every building file. We are within the building department for 2022, we are now paperless. Everything is electronic. If people are submitting anything in a paper format, we request it in a digital. And if not able to provide it, then of course we assist them with that and scan the information into our database. But all our records moving forward are electronic, and we're hoping to backfill the files for 2021 as well, just because a lot of those files remain active and we're working with them in the field. So I don't know if Sasha, the clerk, can give me the ability to share my screen, but I can take you into the portal if that's can happen.
Through your worship to Mr. McLeod. So at the bottom of your screen in the Zoom, there should be a green button that says share screen. It might be at the top of your screen.
Yep.
And then it'll give you the option to share multiple screens that you have up.
Okay. Yeah. And are you seeing the screen now? Yeah. No.
Now we are. Yep.
Yeah.
That's your report.
Okay.
And here we are. Yep. This is the portal. I recognize it. Good.
Okay. So the web portal is, if anyone goes into our website, the municipal website, they can access the portal. If they go into the building component of the website, there will be links in there that take them through to the City View portal, and likewise through bylaw. As I mentioned, planning was involved with this, and they do have access to it through the workspace, but they are not currently live on the website, but they certainly have that ability in the future, and that's something that we'll probably work towards next year. But for now, once you're into the portal, there are some activities within the portal that you can do. Obviously, there's a bylaw enforcement component to it, building compliance letters. So if lawyers wanted to make a compliance letter for a property, or real estate agents or a property owner, they can do so through the portal. Again, some of the applications that the bylaw department deals with in terms of backyard chickens or special events, those applications can be made through the portal. And then you can also search a certain amount of property information related to properties. And so for, fee estimates and property information, you can go into them and you do not require to set up a user account. But for all other activities, you have to set up a sign in or set up an account with the system. But I'll just take you into the search of property. So again, if someone was wanting to locate a property and get the legal information on it or look at it in a mapping view, they could just simply type in the address. And so just for instance, council was mentioning Habitat for Humanity, which was 219 John Street. So if we go into that property record, it'll show you the roll number for that property, the legal description. It won't show the owner's name because, again, under the Freedom of Information Act, we're not able to release that information. If you are signed in and have a registered account and you have access to a property, you can get that type of information. But for a just viewing a property, it'll just give you the basic information. You can also click on the icon, which will take you to a map, and it'll just go through our entire township mapping and zoom you right in on the property so that you can locate it quickly just by typing in the address. So it's a useful feature that some people may use. It's completely linked with our GIS mapping, so the other mapping applications that we currently have on our website can be used through that. Also, if anyone has some questions about how to use the portal, we have set up some helpful information links here, and this is something that we can build as time goes on as we find users have some questions and are areas where we find that we're getting a lot of questions. We can provide additional information on the website to assist people with that. And then otherwise, you would have to set up an account, and I have set up an account, so I'm just going to log into that. So once you're logged in as a user, and anyone can log in as a user, you just have to sign in or sign up. Again, a person could go into bylaw enforcement, and if they wanted to submit a complaint on a particular property, they could do so through the web portal. And in doing so, it essentially will take them through steps in order to do that. So you can see at the top here, there's various steps, and as you move through those steps, they get highlighted. So at the beginning, you're going to enter the type of complaint, perhaps it's a derelict vehicle, that sort of thing. A person would enter information about it, property location. As they move through the steps, they would identify the property. They could do that by typing in the address or by using the mapping and clicking on the property, and it would populate that information. They could upload photos. So the bylaw would have, tangible information to help them with that complaint. So pictures of, in this case, derelict vehicle. Once they put all the information in, the applicant can review this information. They could leave it sitting there for 4 months. It's totally up to the person that's entering the information. They don't have to submit it until they're comfortable with that. And that's true of all applications, including building permits. as I mentioned, there's compliance letters and backyard chickens. Again, you can apply for a building permit. You would, again, enter in the type. There's the various steps that you would work through. You would identify, if it's a garage, whether it's an attached garage or a detached garage. You would provide a larger description of the work. You would tie that application to a property, so you would have to provide the location of the property, the legal description, that sort of thing. You could include contacts such as contractors, people that are working with you on the project, and then they would upload their files. And as they go through these steps, it's very specific. I won't go through them in detail, but they would upload their application in a digital form, their building plans, any information that they would normally submit with a building permit application. Again, they can do this on their own time. They can do this in the evening at 1 in the morning. Basically, the real advantage of this is people can do it on their own time. They don't have to come into the office. They aren't tied to our hours of operation. They can ultimately submit the application. They can choose to pay the fees at that time. At this point, we're not requiring with any permit submissions the fees to be paid in advance. At some point, we will require a deposit to be paid. And again, they can pay that through the portal using their credit card. And then once you are, if you're a frequent user, let's say you're a contractor and you have several projects you're working on, and if you've entered all those projects through our portal, you can just simply go into your item. You can go into your building permit applications. If you've made bylaw complaints, you can go into there and view them, and you can view the statuses of them. So for demonstration purposes, I've linked a few permit files to my account. And so, here you see a single family dwelling. But if I had multiple permits, I could go into that information. And so this is a permit where I can go in and view it after I've made the submission. And it's going to tell me, what I submitted, when I submit it. It's going to tell me, who's undertaking the building code review, giving you their contact information. You can email them directly through this. And in the background, when someone makes an application, as we move it through the process, so when they initially submit their building permit, we review their initial information just to make sure that it is indeed a complete application. Once we've made that determination, they will get a notification by email and through the system. And then when it's assigned to a specific plan reviewer, they will get a notification so that they know who is reviewing their building permit. And they'll also get a notification who is reviewing the planning in terms of the site plan for review through the planning department, and that contact information. And as those people work on the process, as they move it through the application, the applicant gets notifications in the background. When the fees are all figured out, it will generate an invoice to the applicant and notify them, and they can pay it online. And just for instance, I was working on an application a couple of weeks ago. We can't issue the permit until the application's been paid. I was in the process of creating an invoice and doing an email to send to the applicant. And in creating that invoice, they already got it. And before I finished the email, the applicant had paid for the building permit online, and I was able to issue the permit. So there's a lot of advantages to the process. One of the advantages that we've got now is that the planning and the building review occur simultaneously, and that wasn't the case before. It would initially be reviewed by planning, and then a plans reviewer would receive it after they've completed it. Those two reviews can occur at the same time. And also with the inspections in the field, the inspectors are able to electronically email the inspection directly to the owner. Again, they would be able to access the inspection reports through the portal. They would be able to in the field also, if someone else wanted a copy of it, they would be able to send it to them. So there's a lot of functionality to it. But I just wanted to show that to council at this point.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So if there's any questions, certainly on this, it won't take much of your time. I know your meeting is running quite late this evening, so
no problem, Scott. I appreciate it, and I know for council, because we've got to know you, Scott, that you don't generally show a great deal of excitement about something when it comes to this. You're very clear in your direction, but I can tell that you're very excited about this project, and so I'm happy for you and your staff to be able to use this to roll this out for the public. And I hope that it becomes a regular positive sort of routine for you folks to receive these applications through online and be able to communicate with the public and with contractors that are working. So I think it's very exciting that we finally got to this point, and I think it's a real positive step in building, considering we are projected to have an awful lot of growth in the next little while. So this will become a very busy tool, I'm sure. Scott, thank you for that. Does any members of council have any questions to Scott? Come on, he's an excited guy. Look at him. He's excited. All right. Thank you, Scott, and thank you for your report too. And obviously, it was a very busy year for the building department. With Ron retiring, it was great to see that we had other people come up and step up to step into those roles and kept the consistency of service. And so I appreciate that around here, and I know our CIO does too. So I'm glad that worked out. All right, Scott, nothing further. Appreciate your report. Thank you. All right. Council, thank you, Scott. Council, prepared to move on then and ask for, I have a mover and seconder on this report. I'm looking for your, as Tom said, I'm looking for your vote. Are there those in favor? Thank you. That carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Scott. Keep up the great work in that department. Council, we're going to move on to assignment and assumption agreement from Ridgeview. This is sort of a routine thing, but it's important. So be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report CS 013 2022, assignment and assumption agreement regarding Ridgeview subdivision dated March 21, 2022. And item 2, approve that bylaw 22-20, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute and acknowledge the assignment and assumption agreement for the Ridgeview subdivision. Can I have a mover and seconder on the floor? Mr. Walker, seconded by Mr. Broderick. Mr. Dokanish, it's nice to have you here. Do you have anything you want to add? It's just a pretty straightforward agreement. Mr. Dokanish, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. No, nothing to add. The report's pretty straightforward. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'm here to answer.
Thank you very much for the report. Anybody with any questions to Baz and his team? All right, Baz, you're getting off real easy on this one. Thank you for that. Members of council, you got a motion in front of you with a mover and seconder. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thanks, Baz. We're going to do a name change. I'm not sure if you're part of that too, are you? Was that part of yours? No? Okay. Nice to see you. We're going to change a little name on a subdivision, on a road that hasn't even been built yet, but it's as a result of a request from the developer regarding their work that they're doing. So got an extensive report here. I see Nick Haley is with us. Hello, Nick. I'll read the report for a mover and seconder. Be it resolved, Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report CS 015 2022. It's a request to change existing street name in the Estates of Clearview dated March 21, 2022. And item 2, approve that the renaming of the southern portion of Prescott Drive to Mackenzie Drive from between Breton Street east to the Grand Trunk Road for the Estates of Clearview subdivision, file number 2004-011 SD on lands described as part of Lot 25, Concession 1, former Nottawasaga, and located at 6934 and 7044 Highway 26 in Stayner. Well done, Nick. Mover and seconder on this name changing. Mr. Broderick, is there a seconder? Ms. Tanine, Councillor Tanine, thank you very much. Before you go on, Nick, I want to say I reviewed this and I was a little bit surprised that we were doing this. And then it became all very clear when I saw the school board got involved. Nick, over to you.
Well, if any councilors have any members, I'm definitely here to address any questions that come up. Hopefully my report was straightforward enough. So if you do have any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Thank you. Councillor Walker, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Looking on the one here, it's got the one design with the future school block, the purple Mackenzie Drive and the yellow Prescott Drive. Also down in the bottom left above the commercial Charlotte, it says section of road to be remain as Prescott Drive down in the bottom too. Is that accurate, or to me that's confusing if you've got a little short Prescott Drive in the bottom and then your main Prescott Drive up at the top?
Through Mayor Measures to Councillor Walker, I'm going to actually share my screen and pull up the same map just so we're all looking at the same information. I think what you're referring to was actually just a clarifying point on my end. Let me prepare my report 1 second. Okay. So can everyone see the map right now, currently?
Yeah, looks good, Nick. Go ahead.
Came up. So I think sorry, apologies, and I probably should use different coloring, but the section of Prescott, section of road to remain as Prescott, there's actually a black line with an arrow pointing to this section here. So it's just this portion that's to remain. This was just to try and get it out of the way of the words up here. So it's just trying to say that this portion, the yellow portion, is to remain as Prescott Drive. And then the purple section here is going to be renamed to Mackenzie Drive, or requested to be renamed to Mackenzie Drive. So apologies. I do realize that I guess there's a lot of black and arrows and black lines on this map. So perhaps I should have used maybe yellow. But that, yeah, it's just the top northern portion is to remain as Prescott Drive, with the southern portion to be renamed to Mackenzie Drive.
Councillor Walker?
Yeah, thank you. Isn't it ironic that school board wants a block put in when they have a perfectly good block in the south corner of town, with the south being developed and the southwest being developed? That would suit all that development and the other there. Anyways, I
know.
And just to speak to that, so I do.
Go ahead.
I do believe there is 2 sites that they're looking at. So I believe it's quadrants. So this would be the north east quadrant. I believe this is what the school board's come up with.
Amazing. All right. Given that the developer's in the middle of selling and building some of these homes, I see it's important that council support the recommendation to change the name of the street, given that they have constraints on their abilities too, because of the school board recommendation. So while it's confusing, it's just one more thing when it comes to development. Nick, thank you for that. Is anybody else with any other questions of Nick or the staff? All right. Thanks, Nick. We're going to call the motion. Members of council, you got a motion in front of you with mover and seconder in regards to renaming of the street. So we will be using the name Mackenzie with an MCK, not an MA, MC. Members of council, any questions? I'll call the motion. All in favor? And that looks like that carries. Thank you. Carries unanimous. Well done, Nick. Okay, good luck with that one. Nice to see you tonight. Okay, council, we're moving on. Bottom of page 6, we've got the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Department. They've got an update on Recreation and Culture, specifically Culture Department, Recreation Department fees. And so I'll have the motion here in front of me, and so I'll read it. We'll look for a mover and seconder, and then we'll have a brief presentation from Terry. Be it resolved, Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receive report PCR 003 2022. It's an update to the Parks, Culture, Recreation user fees dated March 21st, 2022. And item 2, that council approve the proposed user fees for Parks, Culture, and Recreation effective May 1st, 2022 to April 30, 2023. And item 3 is Schedule J of the Township's Fee and Charges Bylaw 17-110 be amended to reflect these updated fees. All right, can I have a mover and seconder? Mr. Walker, Mr. Broderick, thank you. Hello, Mr. Vachon, nice to see you again. sorry to call you in a little early there. I don't know if you caught you off guard, but glad to have you join us as always. So thank you for bringing forward the recommendation. Do you have anything you'd like to comment on before we go to questions?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and Council. Good evening. Yeah, just 3 changes this year to our fee bylaws. The first one is we have added 2% to some of our categories. Also, we have we kept all the pool fees at 0% this year. But it is worth noting that we will be able to offer the services of our online booking system this year. And there will be a fee attached to that system that's downloaded to the users. So they will have a little fee if they use our online system, but all the other fees are to remain at 0%. And finally, the third is this year we've changed the way we do our soccer and baseball field rentals. For the long period of time, our fees would be on a seasonal basis. So a team would pay one fee for the whole year, and they would use as much diamond time as they were pleased. We've implemented now a new block system, very similar to an hourly system. It's a new system that's being used by a lot of municipalities. It will keep baseball teams more accountable for their diamond time. With our additional staff that we have, with our clerk, we're now responsible for making sure that the diamond time is properly maintained. So this is a very new and innovative way of doing it. We made sure to keep we made sure to do conservative estimates to make sure that the baseball teams or soccer teams do not have an increase in their annual fees other than the 2%. So those are pretty much the 3 changes that we've done this year, Your Worship. And I'm available for any other questions that council may have.
Thank you very much. Members of council, do you have any questions to Terry about the fees schedule? Yes, Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Your Worship. Terry, just quick, compared to the other municipalities around, our rental rates, I know we were always usually pretty well low in some areas and in the middle in others, but never in the high end. Where do we sit compared to the neighboring municipalities?
Good question, Terry.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Walker. We still remain in middle of the pack. It's some communities have different systems in place depending on the activity that you're referring to. If we're talking about arena and arena rates, we're pretty much in the 50th percentile of our neighboring communities. Our advertising rates are perhaps a little lower, but again, a lot of municipalities have different systems, different proposals, different programs. So it's very hard to compare when it comes to advertising rates in our arenas. With respect to our pools or our baseball and soccer fields, again, we're right there in the middle of the pack. Again, some communities are anomalies. They have different systems, different creative systems, but typically, generally, we're right there in the middle.
All right, Councillor Walker, comfortable?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Thank you, Terry. I know it's quite a balancing act just to try and come up with the fees structure so that it's equitable to everybody, but yet not over the top where it deters facilities being used. So thank you very much for working that out. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Members of council, anything further? Yes, Councillor Broderick, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Terry, I'm just curious, with the new system, will this have any type of impact on staff in as far as time?
Terry, any comment about staff time when it comes to bookings?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Your Worship. Again, through you to Councillor Broderick. No, there will be no additional time. We have had the resources in place for the last year and a half with respect to managing the website, the online activities through RecDesk. So there will be no additional resources or staff required. That's already been put in place for a couple of years now.
Thank you.
Councillor Broderick, thank you. Mayor, members of council, anybody else?
And she's pretty awesome, by the way.
It is.
Our staff is pretty awesome.
They certainly are. Thank you. Terry, if I may, I just got one quick question. About the booking website and the booking calendar, is that information available? So for instance, it wasn't last summer, but it was the summer before. I took a phone call that somebody wanted to go and do just throw some balls around at the Ottawa ballpark. And when they arrived, they found there was a whole group of guys from Collingwood that were using the ballpark, and they couldn't determine if the field was in fact rented or not. And they were kind of concerned that, let's just say somebody was visiting our community and they were wanting to use our field, but they wanted to know if it was in fact booked. And at that time, which would have been 2 summers ago, I didn't have that information. So how do we answer that question, Terry?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, we were not live back then, Your Worship. I remember that concern. You brought that forward to us, and a very valid concern, and it happens quite frequently, especially in Ottawa. So we were not live back then, but we will be live this summer. This will be the first summer that the public will be able to go online and see the activities of all of our ball fields, and they will be able to confirm that.
Fair enough. So we'd be able to call it up on our phone right there on the site and say, yep, I'm actually booked, fellas. How's that? All right. Thank you very much, Terry. All right. Council, you've heard the presentation and we've had some good questions. I think I'm prepared to call the motion. All right. You've got a motion in front of you with a mover. And thank you, Terry. You've got a motion in front of you with mover and seconder. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. Thanks, Terry. Now don't go away because we've got to have a quick talk here. I'm going to ask council to go to a workshop session so we can discuss fulfilling recommendation that's on the floor here now regarding the Culture and Sports Hall of Fame. The ask is for 3 members of council to work with staff to make the final selections regarding the Sports Hall of Fame appointees. Terry, before we open the floor for nominations, can you tell us what type of commitment, time commitment, or what type of responsibilities and or would there be anonymity involved with the decisions being made by this committee? Terry, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, we're extremely happy that we're able to host this event again. We did it a couple of years and it was fantastic. It's going to be very fun this year to be able to have this event at the Stainer Hall and hopefully display some of the plaques that we've already given out to the public. So we're extremely happy and we're very motivated to do this again this year. The timelines is usually about perhaps a meeting or 2 with council, perhaps a couple hours of your time. It's to basically go over the nominations and ultimately come up with recommendations to provide to council on who the successful proponents are for each category. A couple hours, a meeting or 2, that's pretty much about it.
All right. And of course, the confidentiality would be required given that the decisions will be made and then the announcement will be made at the meeting or at the actual presentation ceremony, right?
That's correct.
All right. Thank you, Terry, for that brief explanation. Council, I think we have been down this road before. Thankfully, we're back to the Sports Hall of Fame, and we need a committee to assist with this decision. Can I ask for nominations? You guys are all jumping so quick. I need somebody to nominate or either step forward. Mr. Broderick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to nominate Councillor Walker.
Councillor Walker, do you accept that?
Yes, Your Worship. I've been on it in the past, and it's actually quite fun, quite rewarding to go through the applications, and yeah, it's a really fun time.
Great. Any other? Thank you, Councillor Walker. Not any other nominations? Councillor Leishman.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Deneen, please.
Councillor Deneen, do you accept that?
Oh, sorry. Since Robert says it's a lot of fun, I'll accept that nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton.
I'll nominate Councillor Broderick.
Councillor Broderick, do you accept that nomination?
Yeah, I have sat on this before, and yeah, it is a lot of fun. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you. We have 3. I'll just put it open. Is there any further nominations? Seeing none, I'd like to close nominations. Thank you, Terry. We're going to go to the motion, and I'll look for a mover and seconder. Recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receive report PCR 004 2022, the Clearview Culture and Sports Hall of Fame Councillor appointees dated March 21, 2022. And that Council appoint the following 3 council members to work with staff to make the final selections. Councillors Walker, Councillors Deneen, and Councillor Broderick. Can I have a mover and seconder on the motion? Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Deneen. Any discussion? I would just suggest this, that you work with Jen Kane-Percy, our scheduler and assistant, to make sure that she can find the times to make that work for you. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. Good luck there, guys. I look forward to that. All right, you guys, we're going to move on to our Public Works Department. And then we've still got a few other things to discuss here tonight. So let's move to page, middle of page 7. Public Works Drinking Water Systems 2021 Summary Report. I believe Stephanie has been waiting in the wings. Steph, how are you? Nice to see you. I have the report. I will ask for a mover and seconder, and then we'll go to your, if you have any comments. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receive report PW 008 2022 Drinking Water Systems 2021 Summary Report dated March 21, 2022 for information. And can I have a mover and seconder to put it on the floor? Mr. Broderick, Councillor Leishman. Thank you. Hello, Steph. What a great report. It's always good to read these positive reports. Would you have anything you'd like to highlight?
Sure, I'd be more than welcome to. Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, members of council. So yes, as the Mayor Measures mentioned, this report is something we bring forward every year. It's a requirement of the Safe Drinking Water Act. It's something that's prepared specifically for you as members of council and the owners of our drinking water systems to provide a summary of our operational performance, flow rates, system capabilities for our water systems for the past year, and it helps provide information to determine future needs of the systems. So there's a few items I can just quickly run through that were of note. You probably noticed that there's the flow patterns were very similar across all the water systems, where the highest flows were experienced in June and August. These were the months last year where there was the driest and highest and warmest, of course. The small systems in the northern part of the township actually saw the largest percentage increase in flows from one year to the next. This is likely due to the changing demographics. As a number of those residents are now occupied year-round. We're seeing that from which used to be seasonal residents. There's also the growth still within the Buckingham Woods system, whereas the Windrose Valley section is being continuing to be built on. In Stayner, there was an increase in flow of 3.5% over 2020, and which was up from 12.8% from 2019. Some of this is due to the residential growth occurring in Stayner, and then as well a lot of it is attributed to a large manufacturer that consumes actually approximately 39% of the total volume of water in that system. And then in April of last year, we made some operational changes within the well operations of Stayner to increase the pumping capacity, which gained us about 350 cubic meters a day of water. And this was done to help sustain the development community while we're building the Klondike Park roadside. So, and that was kind of the highlights of the year for us. So, excellent.
And it's always great to have our compliance officer here to work with our water team to make sure that we do stay in compliance. And I appreciate the work you do. Members of council, thank you for your report. Members of council, do you have any questions to Steph and or any other members of staff about this very valuable report? Okay, Steph, you and Baz are getting off easy tonight. You see that? No questions. Well done. Nice to see you tonight. Thank you for joining us. Members of council, you've got a mover and seconder on the motion, so I am prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? That carries. Unanimous. Thank you, Steph. Keep up the great work and nice to see you again. All the best. Council, we're going to move on to our street sweeping tender. I believe, Dan, is that your report? Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township of Fairview hereby receive report PW 009 2022 street sweeping tender dated March 21, 2022, and award the tender for street sweeping to Glenn's Sweeping Limited in the amount of $61,349.96, which includes HST. Can I have a mover and seconder on the motion? Deneen and Walker. Deneen and Walker. Thank you. Dan, anything you want to report about this?
Not really, Your Worship. If Stephanie and Baz got off that easy, this should be a cakewalk.
Well, I know we like talking to you though, Dan. There's no doubt about it. Any questions to Dan? See, there you go, Councillor Walker.
Sorry, Dan. It's not a difficult one. Hours of operation during the daytime for Glen Sweeping. I know we've had them a couple of times, and sometimes they're out at 11 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night on certain streets. So just wondering, is there a time frame of start end? Just because some residents are working shift work a little difficult. They're not the quietest machines when they're out.
No kidding.
Roaring on the picking up the dust.
Dan, hours of operation question.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Through to Councillor Walker. Yeah, we can certainly set those time limits and be a bit more strict with them. Typically for any construction projects that we've had, we typically ask them to follow our noise bylaw, which I believe is 7 till 7 weekdays. So we can stipulate that with the operator for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Any other questions to Dan about the street sweeping? All right. Thank you, Dan. Keep up the great work when it comes to this. Council has a motion in front of you with a mover and seconder. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries unanimously. We now have our street sweeping awarded. All right. Moving over to page 8. Legislative services. Oh, I know the clerk loves talking about the election. So here she is back again. All right. Joint Compliance Audit Committee. Recommendation be it resolved the Council of the Township of Fairview hereby one receive the report LS 008 2022, the Joint Compliance Audit Committee for 2022 municipal and school board elections dated March 21st, 2022. And item 2, the council approved the Township of Clearview participation in the Joint Compliance Audit Committee facilitated and administered by the County of Simcoe for the 2022 municipal and school board election. And item 3, that a bylaw be presented to council prior to October 1st, 2022 to establish and appoint members of the Joint Compliance Audit Committee with participating municipalities within the county. All right, mover and seconder, and then we'll hear from Sasha. Mover, Broderick, second, Leishman. All right, Clerk Kelmke, what would you like to say about this one?
Thank you, Mayor Measures. I might try and pull a Dan here where I say, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll just give a summary. So yes, we have to establish by bylaw the terms of reference and appoint anyone to the Joint Compliance Audit Committee by October 1st. The county was great in that they presented to County Council, I think back in January, about doing this joint committee and facilitating it through their staff again. And I believe County Council was very much for that. So now we've expressed interest in the summer that we would like to join this again. It worked very well for the 2018 municipal election. We saw a great benefit in it. So we would like to continue it for the 2022 municipal election. And I can say from the last one to this one, there were 6 participating municipalities, I think, from 2018. Now I think we're possibly going to have all 16 in this one. So.
All right. Now there's a committee I don't want to be on. How's that? Members of council, do you have any questions to Sasha for that? No, nobody has any questions. All right. Sasha, thank you. Good luck with this. I will thank you again for your report. Members of council, you have a motion in front of you. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous again. Thank you. All right. We're going to update the Youth Advisory Committee terms of reference. This is an interesting one. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive report LS 009/2022, update to the Youth Center Advisory Committee terms of reference dated March 21st, 2022. And item 2, that Council approve the new terms of reference for the Youth Advisory Committee as attached to as Appendix A to this report. And item 3, that the new terms of reference are effective with the 2022-2026 term of council. So, a mover and seconder on this motion, please. Mr. Deputy Mayor and Mr. Walker. Thank you. Madam Clerk, do you have anything you want to add?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the rest of council, and I don't know if Deputy Mayor Burton or Councillor Walker want to make any comments as well, being the committee representative.
Yes.
But the committee coordinator approached the clerk's department back in late summer, early fall about transitioning the committee. I believe there was probably some discussion about going to more of a youth-driven committee. The committee did start years ago, I believe back in 2016, to get the youth center started. They've done an amazing job. It's now become a programming area under Parks, Culture and Recreation. So I think that this is a perfect time for that transition with the committee to be a youth advisory committee. And I think these terms of reference will represent that properly.
Excellent. Deputy Mayor or Mr. Walker? Who would like, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Sure. It's I think our clerk just explained it. Yeah, I mean, it's been an amazing success story. You know, it was a struggle for the first couple of years, but it's been a great success story, great staff. And yeah, it's time to get the youth more involved in running it. Obviously, if you read the terms of reference, there's still a one adult there at large, and there's still a member of council to be on it, on the advisory committee. So it's, but yeah, it's a step forward in getting them more involved in what they're going to do. And with the guidance of our staff, I'm sure I have all the confidence in the world. That's the right way to go.
Thank you. Mr. Walker, anything?
Thank you, Your Worship. We just felt it was time that the youth stepped up and helped run some of their own affairs with the guidance of the staff that we have under the Recreation Department and the adult reps that will be on the committee. Youth have a lot of great ideas, and sometimes if you get all adults on there, adults sometimes don't like new ideas. So the youth are quite capable of, we feel, are quite capable of advancing the direction of the youth center further with programs and activities coordinated with the coordinator and that. So we think it's a great move to have the terms of reference change to this type of system.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions from members of council to either our staff or to our two council reps? Seeing none, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Thank you to our council reps for your work on that committee, and I guess you're going to continue to the end of the term anyway. And our new council, when the new council gets elected, will have a new terms of reference for the committee. Okay, council, you've got a motion in front of you. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous again. Thank you very much. Okay, Madam Clerk, we're going to move into the bylaws section of our agenda. As a result of some earlier discussion, there's going to be some changes to this, but we'll keep plowing ahead until we get to the changes in this bylaw. At this point, though, I'm going to read for council's interest bylaw number 22-16 to amend bylaw number 21-89. It's about voting again. Again, as I teased my clerk, we are often hearing from her about the election coming up. And so this is there's an explanatory note attached to this. Actually, I'll tell you what, Madam Clerk, do you want to mention something about that explanatory note? And then I'll read the actual bylaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the rest of council. So specifically, when I was looking back at bylaw 21-89, under the Municipal Elections Act, if we're going to offer alternative voting methods at our advanced vote dates, we do need to specify that in our vote procedure bylaw. So when looking and reviewing back to that, I noticed that it was missing from this one. So I just had to add and amend section 1 of that bylaw just to state that the clerk has the authority to offer that vote method. And we do plan to offer internet voting at kiosk areas that are advanced votes, because they're going to be set up for traditional ballot voting. However, we do understand the township with rural internet is not great. We experience it with our Zoom meetings. So that's why we really want to be able to offer this vote method at some of our advanced votes to take advantage of the Wi-Fi in the area.
All right, I think that's a great step forward. Members of council, any questions to Sasha before I move to the bylaw? All right, thank you, council, and thank you, Sasha. I'm going to move directly to the bylaw. The recommendation is, be it resolved that bylaw number 22-16, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 21-89, which authorizes voting and vote counting equipment and alternative voting methods for the 2022 municipal and school board election, be presented and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed on this 21st day of March 2022. Council, you've heard the bylaw. You've got a mover and seconder, or do we have a mover and seconder? I'm sorry, we do not. Is there a mover and seconder on the bylaw? Mr. Walker, Councillor Deneen, thank you. I was getting ahead of myself, because normally we would do that after an explanatory, but nevertheless, we're good. Moved by Walker, seconded by Deneen. Council, you've heard the bylaw. I'm prepared to call it. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Council, Madam Clerk, the next three are bylaws related to the discussion that we had earlier. We did not have any question about bylaw number 22-17, so I'm prepared to present it to council. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to make a procedural note to council before this motion is on the floor that you did refer both of the previous speed reductions back to staff for more information. So it may be appropriate to do so with this bylaw as well, just because you're also looking at speed reductions and it's a related topic.
Exactly. And that's why I want to be cautious as we bring forward a bylaw, because the bylaw is actually the instrument that makes these type of changes. So council, we can refer 22-17, 22-18, 22-19 back to the clerk's office for return to council at a later date. Any questions? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, so 2218 and 2219, we've already referred back to council. So the only one we're dealing with in the bylaws is 2217. Is that correct, Madam Clerk? I see her nodding her head. So do we have to put this motion on the floor first before I can make a recommendation to defer it?
Well, yeah, I may have misspoke, Deputy Mayor, in the fact that 18 and 19, by the fact that they've been referred correctly, are not now, they appear on our agenda. So as the chair, I can send them back to the clerk, actually without a vote. So which I will direct, if I may, that 2218 and 2219 be referred back to the clerk's department and be held there until such time as if they may reappear. So to help go back to the clerk then regarding 2217, because we did not discuss that. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship, for you to Deputy Mayor and the rest of council. So first, procedurally, we would need to get this bylaw on the floor, and then a motion to refer back to staff could be made. And then if the motion to refer is to be passed, then we would move forward with the next bylaws. And then as Mayor Measures mentioned, by default, those bylaws are already referred back to the clerk's department because of the resolutions passed under sections 8.1 and 8.2 on the agenda.
Mr. Patterson? I'm sorry, you're muted again. You got a few of those gotchas tonight, I tell you.
Yeah, I usually don't miss it.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm losing my voice. So I would move it to put it on the floor for discussion.
Members of council, let me read it and then I'll ask for the mover and seconder. Recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 22-17 being a bylaw to prescribe the rate of speed for motor vehicles driven on certain public highways, concession 10, Nottawasaga, be presented and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed on the 21st day of March 2022. It'll be moved by Patterson. Seconded, Councillor Deneen. Any other referrals? Now it's on the floor. We need Deputy Mayor. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'd like to defer it back to staff with the same conditions. to get legal opinions, and that is we did for the previous two.
All right. Is there a seconder on that?
You meant referral. Referral.
Yes.
Yeah, referral. Sorry. Correct.
Okay.
My apologies. Referral.
The English language is lots of fun. It's a referral. Is there a seconder on that motion? Mr. Walker. Madam Clerk, can you please record a motion to refer? And can you give me a little bit of language there, and then I'll call that motion.
Thank you, Mayor Measures. Actually, I do have a motion to refer prepared for this moment. So just let me bring it up for a second. So it's moved by Deputy Mayor Burton, seconded by Councillor Walker. Be it resolved that bylaw 22-17 to prescribe a rate of speed on concession 10 Nottawasaga, speed reduction, be referred back to staff to discuss with legal counsel and the township's insurance company the liability implications for the speed reduction, and that the report be brought back to council no later than June 30th, 2022 to outline the liability response.
All right, council, you've heard the motion to refer, and is there any questions? Seeing none, I will call the motion. All those in favor of the referral? And that also carries unanimous. So just as an aside, I would ask the CAO and the clerk to get to work on this, I guess, with our legal team, and we'll get some answers. And for procedural questions, items 22-17, 22-18, and 22-19 remain bylaws, and they will be in the custody of the clerk and returned to this council table at a future time, as I understand it. Is that right, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, they will be held in the clerk's department, and then we will bring a report back to council and proceed forward from that report.
Okay, clear as mud. Everybody good? All right. I'm prepared to move on with our procedural gymnastics and move to item 22-20, bylaw regarding the assignment and assumption agreement with Ridgeview Subdivision. Recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 22-20 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement and assumption agreement with Ridgeview Subdivision. Oh, sorry, I'm going to reread that. Enter into an assignment and assumption agreement for the Ridgeview Subdivision. Be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 21st day of March, 2022. Can I have a mover and seconder on this bylaw? Mr. Broderick, seconded. Mr. Walker, any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the bylaw. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you. We're going to go to the amending the fees and charges bylaw. This is bylaw 22-21. Recommendation be it resolved, bylaw 22-21. Being a bylaw to amend fees and charges, bylaw 17-110, to update Parks and Recreation user fees under Schedule J, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 21st day of March, 2022. Can I have a mover and seconder on the bylaw? Mr. Walker, Councillor Leishman, and I'll call the bylaw. All those in favor? And that carries. The bylaw carries. Thank you. And this is the one that we had to add to our agenda, 22-23. The Enabling Accessibility Fund Grant Agreement. So we do have an explanatory note attached to this. Maybe we could have a brief discussion, and then I will read the resolution of their bylaw. Madam Clerk, I'll go to you first.
Thank you, Your Worship. For you to the rest of council, myself and CAO Ferguson got notification last week that the township was successful in receiving funding from a 2020 grant application under the Enabling Accessibility Fund for our council chambers renovation. So I kind of see this as a little bit of a gift from the former CAO and the former clerk, a little bit of a surprise gift that we weren't expecting. As a part of this agreement, it needs to be signed by the end of the week, which is why we needed to put it on council's agenda for tonight. So this funding, which is just a little bit over $99,000, is greatly appreciated. It will help go towards to changing our dais of our horseshoe of the council chambers, update any of our furniture in there to ensure accessibility components. The only thing we cannot use this grant funding for is updating our technology, but we currently have funding that council has graciously provided us in reserves over the last couple of years that can go towards that funding. And I don't know if CAO Ferguson has any more information to add to that.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Ferguson.
No, I don't have anything to add. We are basically signing I would say a contribution agreement, and any immediate announcements on this will be in the federal government and provincial government's jurisdiction. So we basically, we're not really making any announcement. We're just advising that we're signing this as we're going forward.
Yeah, that's a good point to point out, that this is coming from the provincial government, which also has connections to the federal government on this particular grant application. So yes, the township is not making any announcement tonight. We're simply moving ahead with the agreement, and if the agreement is successful, there'll be an announcement. How's that? Thank you. And also, before I read it and call for a mover and seconder, I just want to acknowledge former CAO Steve Sage and former clerk Pam Fettis, who both worked on this project. And to be frank, I completely forgotten that we'd even applied for it, because we haven't been hearing from the province very much. So it was like a bit of a surprise that this popped up. So thank you for that, and thank you for that work that went into putting this together. Council, I'm going to read the bylaw, and then I'll look for a mover and seconder. Thank you, staff. Be it resolved that bylaw 22-23, being a bylaw to authorize entering into a grant agreement for the Enabling Accessibility Fund with Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Canada, represented by the Minister of Employment and Social Development Canada, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed on the 21st day of March 2022. Can I have a mover and seconder on this file? Councillor Deneen, Deputy Mayor Burton. There we are, Deneen and Burton. Thank you. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Well done. The bylaw carries. Thank you, staff, for putting that on the agenda. Very important, and glad to see it on there. Okay, we're on to item number 13, notice of motion. Councillor McKechnie is not with us tonight, but I will acknowledge that he has followed the procedures and submitted a notice of motion, which is now on our agenda. It is scheduled to be debated and voted on for April 11, 2022. And I'll leave it up to Mr. McKechnie to confirm if that's the date that he wants to do that on. But right now, that's what he and the clerk have worked on. So we're following procedure to have this put forward. So you've been notified. Okay, item 14 is the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting. Recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 22-22, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the March 21st, 2022 council meeting, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed on the 21st day of March 2022. How many 2022s do we need? Can I have a mover on that? Councillor Deneen, seconder on that. Councillor Leishman, thank you. Councillor, you've heard the bylaw. That's the confirmatory bylaw for this meeting. All those in favor? And that carries. Council, we're at the point to do the motion to adjourn. So I will read the motion to adjourn. Be it resolved that council be adjourned at 9:04 p.m. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Deneen, Deputy Mayor Burton, thank you very much. All those in favor? Right on. Thanks, council, and thank you, staff, for joining us tonight, and to all the public who joined us as well. Take care and be